come to order. Mr. Schaffler, please call the roll.
Senators Amabile, Baisley, Ball, Bridges, Bright, Carson, Catlin, Cutter, Danielson, Doherty,
Excuse.
Exum,
Excuse. Oh, he's right there.
Frizzell,
Man.
Gonzalez, Henriksen, Judah, Kip, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Lindstedt, Liston, Marchman, Mullica, Pelton B, Pelton R, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson, Snyder, Sullivan, Wallace, Weissman, Zamora Wilson, Senate District 21 vacant. Mr. President.
Let's do this. The morning roll call is 33 present, 0 absent, 1 excused, 1 vacant. We have a quorum. Senator Danielson, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me for the pledge.
Approval of the journal. Senator Liston. What you got today, brother?
All right, listen up, everybody, listen up. There once was a Senate so keen with a calendar tidy and clean. They gave it the sign, everything is fine. Now the session can roll like a dream. Isn't that great? And with that, Mr. President, I move the Senate Journal of February the 18th, 2026 be approved as corrected by by the Secretary.
I feel like that's really going to get to him this time. I think we might have the votes this time. You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. God, man, I can't figure out who has the votes. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Senate Services.
Correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 7 and 54. Correctly re-engrossed, Senate Bill 11 and 76. Correctly revised, House Bill 1027.
Committee reports.
Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary has had in consideration and had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Members of the Juvenile Parole Board, effective November 16, 2025, for terms expiring November 15, 2029. Lori Comer of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, appointed. Kim Branham of Thornton, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the Colorado Department of Public Safety, reappointed. Heidi Jean Hess of Clifton, Colorado, to serve as a public member from the Western Slope that is not employed by the state government, reappointed. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 85 be amended as follows, and if so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with the recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. Senate Bill 18 be amended as follows, and if so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Transportation and Energy, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 28 be postponed indefinitely. Senate Bill 25 be amended as follows, and if so amended, be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation, and with the recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar.
Message from the House.
The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Revisor of Statutes, House Bill 1013 and House Bill 1067. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Revisor of Statutes, House Bill 1064, House Bill 1076, House Bills 1042, House Bill 1025, amended as printed in House Journal February 17, 2026.
Message from the Revisor.
We herewith transmit without comment House Bill 1013 and 1067. Without comment as amended, House Bill 1025, 1042, 1064, and 1076.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate proceed out of order for moments of personal privilege.
The motion is proceeded out of order for moments of personal privilege for everybody except me. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and that motion is adopted. Senator Amabile.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. So, members, today we are joined by a group that I am a member of. It's called the Mad Moms. And there are some also Mad Dads here. And we are the parents of people who have serious mental illness, diseases like schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, which if you don't know what that is, you're lucky. It's schizophrenia and bipolar, and that's a very difficult combination. They also have bipolar with psychotic episodes and other diseases that include psychosis. People with these diseases have about a 20-year lower life expectancy. So many of our loved ones will die very young for a variety of reasons. This group, I had dinner with some of them last night. Their loved ones are in jail. Their loved ones are out on the street, homeless. Their loved ones are, they're lucky, in a hospital. And if they're super lucky, they might get to move to a place like a transitional living home, which we have here in Colorado. But those are the lucky ones. And the unlucky ones, their loved ones are already gone. But they're still here today advocating because they want us to make some changes to the way we are treating people who have these types of diseases. And let me just say the stigma is real. It is actually hard to admit that you have a loved one that has schizoaffective disorder because people judge you for that. They judge your loved one and they judge you. And there is a lot of blame and shame that goes along with that. And that's different than other things that people are dealing with. And so I ask for you to have some heart for the people who are here today, and to, maybe go and say hi to them and make sure that you convey to them that you don't judge them and you don't judge their person for getting sick. It's really not a choice, and a lot of times I think we think it is. And so with that, I would like to welcome the group, and I hope you guys will stand and And again, thank you guys so much for being here, and we're bringing a lot of mental health legislation this session, which I hope you all will be able to support.
Thank you and welcome to the Senate. Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I have a moment of personal privilege, please?
Granted.
Thank you. Today, the Colorado Gifted and Talented Association is at the Capitol. Would you mind standing up if you're a part of that, please? Welcome to the floor. So this group works hard to support Colorado's gifted students by training teachers, providing families with information, and supporting policies that give students better access to beneficial programs. These are amazing young people. I had the privilege of being a gifted and talented teacher as my first job when I changed to, I was a teacher of gifted and talented students, right? And, but having been a gifted kid too, I always reminded them, once gifted, always gifted. It's with you forever. So, but it was such a great and challenging job. But already these guys have amazing ideas for what they would like to do to improve what happens in high schools specifically for our gifted and talented kiddos. So thank you for being here, and make sure to say hello.
Very good. Welcome to the Senate. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up House Bill 1150, House Bill 1152, 1153, 1154, 1157, 1158, 1159, 1160, 1161, 1162, 1164, 1168, 1169, 1170, 1171, 1172, 1173, 1174, 1175, 1176, 1177, 1178, 1179, 1151, 1155, on special order calendar at the hour of 9:34 a.m.
The motion of the Senate take up those bills on special orders consent at the hour of 9:34. This requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. What? The ayes have it. That motion is adopted. Senate will take up those bills on special orders consent at the hour of 9:34 a.m. Special orders. Second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Ball.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Ball will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all the bills on the special orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar?
House Bill 1150 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Agriculture. House Bill 1152 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Early Childhood. House Bill 1153 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Education. House Bill 1154 by Representative Taggart and Senator Bridges, Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the offices of the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and State Planning and Budgeting. House Bill 1157 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Human Services. House Bill 1158 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Judicial Department. House Bill 1159 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Labor and Employment. House Bill 1160 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Law. House Bill 1161 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Local Affairs. House Bill 1162 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. House Bill 1164 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Personnel. House Bill 1168 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Revenue. House Bill 1169 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of State. House Bill 1170 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Transportation. House Bill 1171 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of the Treasury. House Bill 1172 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning funding for capital construction and making supplemental appropriations in connection therewith. House Bill 1173 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning funding for capital construction, information technology, and making supplemental appropriations in connection therewith. House Bill 1174 by Representative Brown and Taggart and Senators Amabile and Kirkmeyer concerning adjustments to the school funding for the 2025-26 budget year and in connection therewith reducing an appropriation. House Bill 1175 by Representative Brown and Sirota and Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer concerning spending from the State Education Fund for specified educational purposes and in connection therewith permitting appropriations from the State Education Fund for the Colorado Teacher of the Year program and requiring appropriations from the State Education Fund for specified purposes in support of the Colorado READ Act, discontinuing annual transfers of cash funds from the State Education Fund for the same and repealing the cash funds. House Bill 1176 by Representatives Sirota and Taggart and Senators Amabile and Bridges concerning modifications to the fourth-year innovation pilot program and in connection therewith reducing an appropriation. House Bill 1177 by Representatives Brown and Taggart and Senators Amabile and Kirkmeyer concerning ending wage enhancement supplemental payments to nursing home providers and in connection therewith reducing an appropriation. House Bill 1178 by Representatives Brown and Sirota and Senators Amabile and Kirkmeyer concerning the Controller's allowance of expenditures in excess of appropriations. House Bill 1179 by Representatives Sirota and Taggart and Senators Bridges and Kirkmeyer concerning a transfer for state fiscal year 2025-26 from the general fund to the information technology capital account of the capital construction fund.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Senate pass all bills on special order, second reading of bills consent calendar, which are House Bill 1150, House Bill 1152, 1153, 1154, 1157, 1158, 1159, 1160, 1161, 1162, 1164, 1168, 1169, 1170, 1171, 1172, 1173, 1174, 1175, 1176, 1177, 1178, and 1179, and there are no committee reports.
Is there any discussion of any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is the adoption of all bills on the special orders, second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
Serving in the military. That's it. Senate will come to order. Senator Ball.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
February 19, 2026. Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1150, House Bill 1152, House Bill 1153, House Bill 1154, House Bill 1157, House Bill 1158, House Bill 1159, House Bill 1160, House Bill 1161, House Bill 1162, House Bill 1164, House Bill 1168, House Bill 1169, House Bill 1170, House Bill 1171, House Bill 1172, House Bill 1173, House Bill 1174, House Bill 1175, House Bill 1176, House Bill 1177, House Bill 1178, House Bill 1179 passed on second reading and ordered revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Ball.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 no, 0 absent, 1 excused, and 1 vacant, the committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bills 1150, 1152, 1153, 1154, 1157, 1158, 1159, 1160, 61, 62, 64, 1168, 1169, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 1176, 1177, 1178, and 1179 passed second reading, order revised, placed on calendar for third reading and final passage. I thought it sounded good.
Sounded
I was applying for your job. Thank you very much. Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take up House Bill 1151, 1155, 1156, 1163, 1165, 1166, and 1167 on special orders at the hour of 9:41.
The motion is the Senate take up those bills on special orders at the hour of 9:41 a.m. This requires a two-thirds vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate will take up those bills on special orders at the hour of 9:41 a.m. Special orders. Second reading of the bill, Senator Ball.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the committee of the whole for consideration of special orders, second reading of bills.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. That was one person. Opposed, no. Thank you, Dylan. The ayes have it. The aye has it. And the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve into the committee of the whole for consideration of special order, second reading of bills. Senator Ball will take the chair again.
Love it. Thank you.
The committee will come to order, and the Coke rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 26-1151?
House Bill 1151 by Representative Sirota and Senators Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Corrections.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1151. I know there is some discussion. I will yield the floor.
Is there any discussion? Senator Wiseman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, we're talking about the Department of Corrections supplemental. It is stated by our colleagues on the Budget Committee, and not wrongly, that, this is about paying for obligations that we have already incurred, and we'll have another discussion in a month or so when we take up the long bill. I really just want us all to reflect on our own role in the nature of the DOC budget and how much money we have to put there, the first people who decide how long they're going to be in DOC are people who commit offenses and hurt others. But as to how long people go in there, as to exactly what the elements are of a crime, how much money we have to spend incarcerating people, if you have a black name tag on in this building, you're part of that. I think that we would all agree that some things are just morally wrong and need to be punished. But then the next question is how much? Some folks may remember a bill that is shorthanded to Milky Arnold for the sponsors. Effective July 1, 1986, we doubled the presumptive ranges for all felony sentencing in Colorado. Day before, F2, for example, got you 4 to 12 years presumptive range. 1 day later, same offense, would get you 8 to 24. Did people become twice as evil in Colorado overnight? I don't think so. Were we incorrectly lenient on some people to the extent of 50%? The day before, I don't think so. Different choices. We're not here in the posture of the Department of Corrections supplemental to talk about those choices. Those come in the form of other legislation. There are people who need to do time. There are. I have friends who have been heinously offended against. We have colleagues whose families have been heinously offended against in this chamber. We still have to do the hard work of grappling with the normative questions of how much punishment is enough and at what cost, who is probation eligible versus when is a sentence going to be made mandatory by our statutory law. For reference, as members think about things, the average cost to incarcerate somebody in the Department of Corrections is $60,000 a year. To build a new prison, if we were ever hypothetically to do that, capital cost $350,000 to $600,000 per bed, depending on the custody level to which the facility is constructed. Level 5, more barbed wire, more concrete, more double doors, more money, unsurprisingly. $60,000 is approximately a teacher's salary. I know teachers in my district who've put in the effort to earn a master's degree. They don't even earn that much. The budget is fundamentally one pot of money. How are we going to allocate it? How are we going to arbitrate among different priorities? There's not some other pot of money out here that funds the Department of Corrections for the choices that we and our predecessors have made over time. It all comes from the same money. Why is there not enough money to improve the asphalt in Morgan County? Well, we're putting $1 billion plus to the Department of Corrections. Why are we straining, appropriately straining, it's a hard decision, why are we straining about the HICPUF budget? $1 billion plus in the Department of Corrections. Why do we struggle to maintain our commitments we've made to school students and their families and teachers through the School Finance Act? Same thing. So I just want to sort of underscore a few respects in which we should be thinking about the question of how our correctional philosophy, our set of criminal laws, plays into everything else around here, because it is all connected. There is one budget, there is one sum of money. There's basically no federal money or cash fund money going to DOC. We always talk about the total budget, and then we're most cautious, as we probably should be, about general fund. DOC is basically entirely general fund. Again, some people need to be punished. We need to pay for that. But we all need to challenge ourselves to think about how much and what is the opportunity cost. Because if there is a correctional type of policy, and that fiscal note says, you're going to be spending X millions of dollars, more projected costs, more people, more years in DOC, for many, many, many years to come, that comes from somewhere. We should think about it as coming from healthcare, coming from students, coming from roads, coming from a lot of other things that we care about. It's a tough choice. I grapple with it too, because again, I know people who've been offended against, and I want there to be consequences for that too. We just all need to think about it, members. I think that's just what I want to say for now. Thank you.
Before we proceed, the coat rule is relaxed in the chamber for everyone. Senator Gonzalez.
Mr. Chair, are you really relaxing the coat rule for the good senator from Peltonia with that shirt?
It's for everyone.
I know. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise to just discuss the Department of Corrections supplemental because, y'all, we didn't get here overnight. And this bill and this bill represents one of the impossible decisions that we will be forced to make given the budget that we have. Are we going to leave jails hanging for payments and costs that they're already incurring? Or are we going to tell families and elders who are facing cuts to Medicaid, no, those are impossible decisions that we are going to have to make over the course of this budget cycle, and I think this Department of Corrections supplemental is one of the big impossible choices that we are being forced to reckon with. Let me just say, as I am beginning my frustration and critique on where we're at, in the hopes that we can actually get to someplace meaningful with our colleagues at the Department of Corrections and also with the first floor. What still remains pretty opaque to me is why the prison population continues to grow when crime is going down here in the state of Colorado. Let's have that conversation. It turns out that it's, even though we have worked on policy after policy after policy after policy year after year, roadblocks and bottlenecks continue to confound the Department of Corrections, and suddenly we are now faced with a crisis. Do we either have people who will be coming into the Department of Corrections continue to sit in their county jails, or do we expand private, will the Department of Corrections expand the utilization of private prison beds? Things are so dire that for the very first time, Colorado wins. The union that represents the staff and employees and guards at the Department of Corrections came out in opposition to this supplemental request, joining for the first time the long-standing chorus of people who are saying that we have to figure out how not to return to the mass incarceration policies of the past. There was a time in this building. There was a time in this building where both Republicans and Democrats understood and recognized that mass incarceration came at great, not only moral costs, but actually budgetary costs. There was a time in this building where you would see people from both sides of the aisle say, actually, there are better ways to reduce harm, advance public safety, and manage our budget effectively. And yet what we have been faced with time and time and time again is a lot of stonewall, is a lot of, well, we'd like to do that, let's study that next session. guess what, friends? Time's up. I am grateful that the members of the Joint Budget Committee initially rejected the request for the additional supplemental appropriation. Why? Because that money would thereafter create more opportunity to make sure that we're feeding our babies and our elders. This decision represents but the first of several impossible decisions that we will be forced to grapple with, thanks to, I would submit, the passage of H.R. 1 that forced impossible decisions. So what I want to hear in this discussion is, how bad is it going to have to get? Because right now we're in dire situations. Apparently, it took a vote from our colleagues at the Joint Budget Committee for the department and the first floor to say, oh, wait, now it's really bad. Let's have some conversations. I welcome those renewed opportunities for dialogue. We'll see where they land. We know what the solutions are. This appropriation, this supplemental, is an indication, this appropriation and supplemental is an indication of the go along to get along that we have been navigating with the department for a very long time. I hope that there is opportunity for shift and change and policy. It won't happen in this bill. There are several pieces of legislation that are also making their way through the Senate Judiciary Committee, making their way through the House, that seek to actually change the long-term structural challenges that impact the ongoing growth of the prison population. May those conversations result in concrete policy change. But right now, they're just conversations. A ver qué. We'll see what happens. So I'll just say, Mr. Chair, thank you for the discussion. Let this stand as the first of several impossible decisions that we as a chamber will be forced to grapple with when it comes to our structural challenges facing the budget.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I rise today in opposition to this supplemental funding request for the Department of Corrections. At its core, this bill asks taxpayers to pay more for prison beds, not because crime has surged. As my colleague pointed out, crime is in fact going down in our state. Instead, we are doing this because the Department of Corrections and Parole Board are failing to responsibly manage the population already in custody. We know there are individuals in our prisons who are not threats to our community. They've paid their due to society, completed programming, earned good time credits, met parole eligibility, and demonstrated rehabilitation. Yet too many remain incarcerated longer than necessary due to bureaucratic delays, a lack of community support infrastructure, and a system that too often defaults to know instead of ready. Every extra month someone who is rehabilitated stays behind bars costs the state tens of thousands of dollars. Multiply that across hundreds of cases, and it becomes clear. This is not just a corrections issue, it is a budget mismanagement issue. To be clear, this supplemental appropriately covers obligations we owe, including reimbursing county jails and paying for inmate medical care. My concern is not with meeting those responsibilities, but with a system whose mismanagement continues to drive avoidable costs year after year after year. Colleagues, I'm frustrated because we are right now attempting to address issues caused by decades of short-sighted, irresponsible, and alarmist public policy that began before I was even born. Since the era of so-called tough-on-crime policies in the 80s and 90s, our prison population has steadily expanded, fueled by longer sentences and fewer opportunities for release. And taxpayers have borne the cost. Yet decades of evidence show that mass incarceration on its own has not delivered the safer, healthier communities it promised. Real public safety comes from prevention, rehabilitation, and successful reentry, not from endlessly growing a system that keeps people locked up long after they are ready to return home. Before we approve additional funding, we should require measurable progress in earned timed release, access to programming, and a plan for population management. If we reward inefficiency with more money, we will only entrench the problem. Accountability must come before appropriation. I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I share a lot of the same concerns that my colleagues have expressed. And the reason I voted yes, I think that most of these concerns turn particularly on the population increase part of this bill. The reason ultimately that I voted yes was because we were told the alternative, if we did not, first of all, would be more people in jails. We already have a jail backlog, so if we don't have room at prisons, folks stay in the jails. The jails cost more per day than the prison beds do. So if we had said no, we would still be the same number of folks incarcerated. We'd have a higher percentage of those folks in jails. That would cost us more money. Ultimately, in a budget year like this, that more expensive option is itself a reason to vote in favor of the increase in bed capacity for DOC. But here's the other reason. We were also told that the most likely outcome of not voting for this particular increase is that 100 folks, 100 inmates would be put into a gym on sled beds. And that is not a safe situation for them or for the folks that work in those institutions. And so we were faced with an impossible choice. This is a supplemental. This is money in the current year budget. This isn't the sort of thing that we have time to work out. And so we added this funding into this bill. I immediately sent a letter to the Gov afterwards expressing my disappointment that we were in this place and my expectation that there would be real movement in conversation with the folks that you've just heard from in addressing our prison population. Lower crime in Colorado, not a lower prison population? How does this fit? How does this work? Something's broken, something needs to be fixed, and I made it very clear that I will not be voting for an increase in prison population in next year's budget unless movement is made in partnership with my colleagues on this issue. So I ask for an aye vote on the bill, recognizing this conversation will continue.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 261151. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to House Bill 261155?
House Bill 1155 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1155. Again, I realize there will be a lot of discussion on this. Let me just frame it by saying we are in a horrendous fiscal situation where choices will have to be made in the confines of the budget that no one wants to make. And this particular supplemental for HCPF, for Medicaid, is a reflection of those terrible choices that we will have to make.
Senator Bridges, would you like to move your bill?
I did move the bill, but I'll do it again. I
Senator Bridges.
move House Bill 1155.
To the bill.
Thank you. I started by moving the bill. I moved that bill. Yeah, check the tape. Can we replay? Yeah, it's fine. It's moved again, whatever. It's hard. You're going to hear a lot about how hard it is. These are the heartbreaking decisions that we have to make. I think many of you were here when Senator Moreno came back and spoke about the challenges of cutting the budget during COVID. That's not why we're cutting the budget today. We're cutting the budget today because of Tabor, which means the cuts we make are never coming back. This is an artificial rationing limit that is inside of our Constitution that means we can't grow even at revenue. We grow at inflation plus population, which means that there will be $1 billion in deficit every single year. Between providing the same services as we did the year before will be $1 billion more than what that Tabor rationing limit allows us to spend. So these cuts are painful, these cuts are permanent until there is some kind of change to Colorado's fiscal situation. They're heartbreaking, they're awful, and I do not look forward to the conversation.
Senator Frizzell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think anybody looks forward to this conversation. Certainly not the citizens of the state of Colorado, certainly not the businesses in Colorado. But here we are. Members, a few years ago in 2022, before my time, this legislature, that legislature, passed House Bill 22-1289. The title of that was Health Benefits for Colorado Children and Pregnant Persons. And I think it's important to look at the fiscal note that was associated with House Bill 22-1289. It's a long fiscal note, 8 pages, but it's a big topic. So I'm just going to revisit exactly what this fiscal note said with your indulgence, because I think it's really important to our conversation today. House Bill 22-1289 says, this bill expands Medicaid coverage to low-income pregnant people and children, regardless of immigration status, requires the insurance commissioner to improve the quality of health insurance coverage through the Health Insurance Affordability Enterprise, and extends a survey of birthing parents indefinitely, among other requirements. It will increase state, local, and statutory public entity expenditures and reduce state revenue on an ongoing basis, beginning in fiscal year 22-23. And then this is a little unusual because I know that you all love to read fiscal notes as much as I do, but it actually has out years going into fiscal year 25-26, and it's really interesting to me that what was projected for the out year fiscal year 25-26 was a total expenditure of $26,956,823. And that's just the front page. where things are really interesting is on page 6. So if you don't mind, I'm going to turn, and feel free to turn to page 6 with me if you have your fiscal note in front of you. But anyway, if you're on page 6, this is what is super interesting to me about this particular bill, is that included in the funding structure for this program is definitely, it's right here, a line item for federal funds. Matching federal funds. Well, I think it's really important to understand the thing is that there are no matching federal funds for this program, which is also now known as Covering All Coloradans. Zero federal funds. It is 100% state funded. And with your indulgence, just a moment. On my desk, I keep like the sticky note because I was so inspired by something that the good senator from Brighton said, truth in fiscal notes. This is important. We have to know when we are voting on a bill that the fiscal note is remotely accurate. Sure, things happen all the time. It's hard to predict the future. Nobody's got a crystal ball. I think the good senator from Brighton might have a crystal ball. But I'm telling you, we have got to have real information that we can trust. This particular fiscal note, this bill, was blatantly untrue. Because we are getting zero federal dollars for Covering All Coloradans. Zero. Meanwhile, and Mr. Chair, I'm very, very grateful for your patience with me because I am getting back to House Bill 1155 here. This bill, this supplemental, it actually increases by a lot the dollars going to Covering All Coloradans. In fact, if you look at the original fiscal note for 25-26, fiscal year 25-26, the cost was projected to be, total service cost, it says right here, $34,916,034. Well, this bill, House Bill 1155, increases the state expenditure, keeping in mind that there's zero federal dollars coming, to $53,360,259. And I would just also like to make a comment that I wish that we would just like round on these because I know that $59 is not really. Why didn't you just say 360? Anyway, or 260. We are almost doubling the original projection for the cost of this program, which has, again, I'm going to say it, no matching federal funds. And we are reducing Medicaid provider rates, which has a match, by a lot. And so when the good senator from Greenwood Village talks about hard decisions, that is. It's also a decision that is going to decimate our health care providers. I'm not talking about we're taking $21 million from the provider rate and taking and just schlepping it over to the Covering All Coloradans fund. That's not what this is. This bill, House Bill 1155, cuts Medicaid provider rates by $103 million. Those are matching federal funds that we are losing. This makes no sense. This makes no sense. And so with that,
There is an amendment at the desk. 9. Will the clerk please read Amendment J009?
Amendment J009, amend Green Groves
Senator
Bill, page
Frizzell.
15.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment J009 to House Bill 1155.
Is there any discussion? Senator
What?
Frizzell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, yes, there is. This is a pretty simple amendment, folks. All it does is it cuts the funding for covering all Coloradans, bringing the program's cost back in line with the original fiscal note that was approved by this legislature, and it transfers the difference to fully restore the 1.6 increase to Medicaid provider rates that was cut in the supplemental. And I ask for your aye vote. I will be talking about this a little bit more, and I think that we might have some additional conversation coming as well.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, that's a strange. First of all, Cover All Coloradans is for pregnant people and kids. That's who gets coverage through this program, pregnant people and kids. So if you are cutting this, you are cutting medical care for pregnant people and kids. Just want to be really clear about who's impacted by this. Yes, they are undocumented pregnant people and kids. They are Coloradans. They are pregnant and they are kids. That's who this program benefits. Additionally, changing the number in the budget doesn't actually change the amount of money that will be expended to provide health care for these pregnant people and kids. Because when the legislature passed this, they passed it like just about everything in Medicaid as an entitlement. That means that Medicaid will spend these dollars, and they will come back to us and tell us that they have spent these dollars. And we can choose to live in a fictional world where we just say in our budget that we're not spending these dollars, but these dollars get spent. So I understand the sentiment of this amendment. Functionally, it doesn't actually accomplish what it is that it purports to accomplish. There will be no reduction in what it is that we are actually spending in Medicaid to support pregnant people and kids. To do that would require a change in statute, which could be accomplished through a bill. I have not seen such a bill, but that would be the way to cut the money in this program. That would be actually the only way to cut the dollars in this program. So we can choose to have a budget that doesn't reflect reality, but that I guess sends the whatever message it is that folks are trying to send through this amendment. Or we can vote no on this, which is what I would ask, and ensure that our budget reflects reality and that we are providing care to pregnant Coloradans and kids.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, covering all Coloradoans, regardless of immigration status, covers more than just pregnant women and kids. It covers it all. It's a Medicaid-like program that is an actual Medicaid, but the same benefits that are eligible, that people who are on Medicaid are eligible for, are the same benefits that covering all Coloradoans receive. And actually, pregnant women and children who go to emergency centers are covered under Medicaid. They actually are covered under Medicaid. So they don't necessarily need Covering All Coloradoans for those specific examples. When they're in an emergency center or a pregnant woman who goes to a hospital, she's covered under Medicaid. That is actually how it works. And I appreciate the good senator from Greenwood Village. I have to keep remembering where you're from. Greenwood Village. I always want to say Cherry Creek Hills or something like that. But anyways, there's a lot in this supplemental. And this amendment basically moves the money around. And while the good senator is correct in what he was saying with regard to the money and that we have to find the funding, I would hope that it actually does send a message to the rest of the Joint Budget Committee with regard to what is actually going on with regard to healthcare policy and finance. So the supplemental, or the amendment is asking that instead of in the supplemental funding an additional $21 million to balloon a program that was supposed to only be $4.4 million, to balloon the program to $53 million, which will balloon even more, covering all Coloradoans, was supposed to only cost us $4.4 million. There was supposed to be a federal match. That's what was told when the bill was passed. There is no federal match. We are not pulling down any federal match. It was supposed to be $4.4 million approximately. In the long bill for 25-26, it was supposed to go to $32 million. What we're finding out in the current fiscal year is that it's actually going to go close to $80 million. It is a Medicaid-like program that is a state entitlement program. And the Joint Budget Committee does have the ability to carry a bill, and won't at this point. Not that we've actually brought it up this year, but we did bring it up last year. And the bill last year was to say, how about we just cap it, which is cap it to the amount that was in the fiscal note, which is very similar to the amendment that is before you. It caps it. It doesn't totally delete or eliminate the program. It doesn't totally eliminate the funding towards it. It just caps it. And I understand it may be ceremonious, but it does send a message. And here's the thing. Right now, and the reason for this amendment, and the reason why the provider rates are so important. We were told in our presentation from Healthcare Policy and Finance to the Joint Budget Committee that, basically everybody should just be happy, because over the course of the last, I want to say at least 10 years or so, it was longer than that, I can't remember the exact year that the department told us this number, but they said that there had been a 10% provider rate increase, and that we should be happy about that, and that would be enough. When I asked them what the inflationary increase was over that same period, they told me they didn't know. I find that hard to believe, because it's not that hard to figure it out. In fact, I went on ChatGPT, and in a few seconds, found out that it was 54%. So during a time period that we did a 10% increase to provider rates, inflation increased by 54%. That has put us into a situation where we have 25 counties and counting that have maternal health care deserts. Maternal health care deserts because the provider rates are so low that providers opt out of providing maternal health care. That would be hospitals, that would be doctors, that would be clinics. They're like, they can't afford it. They're going out of business. They only make somewhere between 60 and 70 cents on the dollar for the services they provide. They can't stay in business doing that. So they have opted out of providing health care services because they have to stop in total. They can't just say, oh, we're not going to provide those services to those folks on Medicaid. They have to opt out totally. And so what happens is they don't provide those services to everyone living in those communities and in those areas. So in those 25 counties that have a maternal health care desert, it is not just for those women who are on Medicaid or even covering all Coloradoans. It is for every woman who lives in that area. They do not have maternal health care. And for those of you who think maybe you're immune to it because you don't live mostly in rural Colorado, it started in metro areas, in urbanized areas, like Loveland. The Loveland Hospital, who closed their emergency center and their inpatient services. And in Greeley, where they're looking at closing their maternal health care. So it's impacting everyone. It's impacting everyone's access to health care. I understand the budget. I understand that there has to be cuts everywhere. We have made some cuts, or are recommending some cuts in our Medicaid program. It's going to have to happen because of the budget situation we're in. It is a horrendous fiscal situation. It is not fun sitting there talking about cutting provider rates, cutting reimbursements to healthcare service providers. It's not fun. What's confusing, though, is the Department of Healthcare Policy and Finance took this 1.6% cut in provider rates, which effectively is even more than that. It was actually more like a 2.4% increase just in that given year, because that's what inflation is in this current fiscal year. But what Healthcare Policy and Finance did, and what they were supposed to be doing apparently, was they need to take it and ask for the State Medical Services Board to approve it, to approve the cut. Even though the governor put it in an executive order, Healthcare Policy and Finance took it to the Colorado Medical Services Board members, who refused to make a motion to cut the service rates, to cut the reimbursement rates to providers. They refused to make a motion. They would not approve it. Now, imagine if you are a mom or dad that has a child with disabilities, and you're relying on that 1.6% increase, even though it doesn't keep up with inflation. You go make your case, limited as it is with the Medical Services Board, and they won't even make a motion. And a week later, Healthcare Policy and Finance says, so what? And goes ahead and pushes forward with the decrease. I think that's pretty disingenuous. It's probably why people don't like to trust government, and probably why they think there are issues with Healthcare Policy and Finance and the way they manage this program. But the reality is this: we would be better off with regard to our budget and with regard to providing healthcare services in the state of Colorado if we actually funded Medicaid programs, if we actually funded it, because it pulls down a federal reimbursement. And in this case, the $38 million that is being reduced because of the 1.6% decrease in the reimbursement rates pulls down another $104 million. So it's not just a $38 million reduction of general fund. It's not just that. It actually ends up being a $140 million reduction to reimbursement rates to providers, which is why we're in the situation of jeopardizing healthcare access in the state of Colorado for everyone. And then you turn around and at the same time say, and I've heard this several times at the Joint Budget Committee, that those programs, those dollar amounts that we can invest that pull down federal funds, those are the things that we shouldn't be cutting. I've heard that in several areas within the budget, several. And it wasn't just by one JBC member, it's by several of us. We should be trying to capitalize on pulling down federal funds. Our budget's in a mess. The forecast that just came in yesterday, it's worse. We will have to still make up even more money over in healthcare policy and finance, in Medicaid. So I just want to point out to you, it wasn't H.R. 1 that cut Medicaid. H.R. 1 has a requirement that if we don't meet our error rates, we have to fund more of the costs. But it didn't cut benefits in Medicaid. It didn't cut the eligibility requirements. The benefits are still the same. But what's happening here is we are going to be funding up to $80 million in a state entitlement program that receives no federal drawdown, only to cut programs and reimbursement rates that do pull down a federal match, more than a 50-50 match. Think about it, approximately $40 million in general fund pulls down another $63 million, $64 million of federal dollars that we are just leaving on the table. It just doesn't even make sense. It doesn't matter if you have insurance or not if you don't have access to health care. If the hospital in your area doesn't provide maternal health care, it doesn't matter if you have commercial health insurance. It doesn't matter if you're self-insured. It doesn't matter if you have Covering All Coloradoans. It doesn't matter if you have OmniSalud. It doesn't matter if you have Medicare. It doesn't matter if you have Medicaid. You're not getting health care services. So in a time when we need to have those federal dollars so that we can provide for health care and access to health care in this state, we're saying no. We're just going to go about our way and continue doing a state entitlement program that was passed on wrong information. Wrong information. The fiscal note said there would be federal match. There is no federal match. We knew this before the program started. I asked last year in the Joint Budget Committee, let's just put a cap on it. Let's just put a cap on Covering All Coloradoans so that it doesn't continue to hinder our Medicaid and our provider rates. If this was supposed to be such a good idea on reducing the provider rates and the reimbursements to hospitals and clinics and doctors, why wasn't it addressed in the special session? Why weren't we allowed to address it in the special session? Why weren't we allowed to cut spending in the special session? Why not? Why not? Why aren't we being judicious when it comes to our budget? But more importantly, when it comes to providing health care and access to health care services in the state of Colorado? It's time to send a message. It is time to send a message. It is a 60 million plus message. It's actually more than that. I'm listening to the conversation in the well, for those of you who can't tell. It's going to be more than that. Covering All Coloradoans, according to the February forecast, is going to balloon to $80 million in this current fiscal year. This is a program that said it was only going to be $4.4 million. And we were going to have a match on that. No match. Now it's going to be 80 million in this fiscal year, and it will balloon to nearly 100 million in the next fiscal year. If any program deserves an audit, it is this one. We need to figure out what's going on. My guess is, because we are cutting provider rates to Medicaid, that more people are moving over and getting eligibility through Covering All Coloradoans. I do not know that for a fact. That's just my guess. But this is not just, a few $1,000,000. I want you to start thinking about $90 to $100 million. It's basically going to be $100 million. State entitlement program pulls no federal reimbursement. The federal reimbursement will be at least $100 million. It will probably be closer to $130 million. So basically, we are putting in jeopardy over $200 million towards our Medicaid program, towards providers, like hospitals, doctors, and clinics to provide those healthcare services. We are starting to jeopardize healthcare access for everyone in the state of Colorado. Everyone. So it's not just about a few $1,000,000. It's not about $21 million. It's not about just $53 million, which is what we are funding this. It has the potential to be up to $200 million. But in this current year, it will be $80 million of general fund plus whatever federal match we aren't pulling down. So $180 million total that we could be putting towards our Medicaid program, that we could be putting towards healthcare access. That's what this is about. It's not about being incompassionate. It's not about jeopardizing health care for those regardless of their immigration status. We have Omni Salud. They can get health insurance there at Omni Salud. Do you remember that in the special session? We beefed that up to $90 million in cost, and it's not in an enterprise anymore, and it's affecting our cap. Nobody bothered to talk about that during the special session. But there is Omni Salud health insurance. There is the other health insurance programs that we have through Connect for Health. What we are doing here is jeopardizing healthcare access for everyone, and we are leaving anywhere from $100 million plus on the table of federal funds that we aren't pulling down to be able to serve healthcare services in the state of Colorado to everyone, essentially. To everyone. That's what this is about. So it is very confusing to the people when they go to the Medical Services Board and they say, no, we don't want the cut. And the Medical Services Board says, God, we're not even going to make that decision. We're not even going to make a motion. If Healthcare Policy and Finance didn't need their approval, why'd they take it to the board in the first place? They couldn't really explain that. It's confusing when I hear at the Joint Budget Committee, we should be doing everything we can to pull down every federal dollar that we possibly can, and then we leave over $100 million on the table. Doesn't make sense. It does not make sense at all. We should pull down every federal dollar, and then I'm there every day. I hear the stories every day at the Joint Budget Committee as well, and it is tough. But we don't pull down the federal dollars? That doesn't make sense. We make general fund cuts in areas that pull down federal dollars, and at the same time, we increase a state entitlement program, state funded only, and it's ballooned from $4.4 million now to $80 million. So that's what this amendment is about. This amendment is very clear. It just says, essentially, that we would put $49 million of general fund towards provider rates, which would pull down over $110 million in federal dollars, and that the $4.4 million that was in the original fiscal note would remain for the program. That's what it says. I would urge an aye vote on the amendment.
Senator Amabile.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I just want to say that this has been an incredibly gut-wrenching and difficult budget conversation that we're having. And none of us wants to see anybody go without the care they need. And it doesn't matter for me, it doesn't matter where they came from or who they are. People are people, and we're making cuts to healthcare. So talking specifically about this amendment, first of all, I just want to say, yes, indeed, Cover All Coloradans does get a federal match. The pregnant women who are covered receive a 65% federal match for their care. So it's not accurate that, that there is no federal match in this program. But the other thing that we know is that if you are able to get care in a preventative time frame, that comes at a much lower cost than if you can't get care and you show up at an emergency room. And we all still pay for that. Our healthcare system still pays for that. So we know that the least expensive way to provide care is through preventative care, through making sure that people get care when they need it and that they're not waiting until they're at death's door. And I don't think any of us want to go with what is actually the cheapest solution of all, which is just to say, I'm sorry, we're not going to provide you care at all, even though you are a human being. We're just going to let you die on the street, because that's the cheapest way that we could handle this situation. And I don't think there's anybody in this room or in this state who wants to step over dead bodies in order to save money. So that's not a solution. And the solution that we have in front of us is providing health care to people who desperately need it. We have to have a very fulsome conversation about what we're doing with Medicaid. And I completely agree, we should be doing everything we can to draw down federal funds and to make the department operate as efficiently as possible. And we aren't doing that right now. But I will also say that if you go to the grocery store and they have buy one, get one free, but you can't afford the one, then you're not going to get the other one either, because you have to spend what is in your budget to spend. And you can't spend more money just because there might be some benefit from spending more money. And that's the world we're in. This amendment on the supplementals does nothing to change what we are spending on Cover All Coloradans in this year. And we will have a conversation about how we handle that going forward. But for right now, this is an entitlement program, and this is the amount of money that it costs. And there is no changing that. So I ask you to please vote no on this amendment. It won't help our budget. It won't reduce our supplemental expenses. And it will send a message about what we want to do moving forward that feels very short-sighted and uncaring. And I don't think that the people in this building are going to want to support that. Thank you.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out, in our supplemental requests from the Department of Healthcare Policy and Finance, when you look up this program and you go to page 11, for fiscal year 25-26, they call this children lacking access due to immigration. The program general fund costs $53,360,259. General fund cost. Cash funds, zero. Reappropriated funds, zero. Federal funds, zero. Pregnant women, children who go to emergency care are covered under Medicaid. That's where the federal match comes in. But in this program, it's zero. And that's what's in our supplemental. And it is gut-wrenching. I would agree. But to act like what we're saying in this amendment, that we are saying they won't get any care, I got news for you. If hospitals, doctors, and clinics do not receive increases, and it's been happening over the course of the last 10 years, it's been happening. They don't receive increases in their provider rates. They currently get, I think it's 67 cents on the dollar reimbursed for the services that they provide from Medicaid. When your payer mix is anywhere from 60 to 75% government, you're losing money. They can't stay open. And the only way that they can not provide services is if they just shut down the whole service, all of it. That's why we have 25 counties with maternal health care deserts. That's why back in September, Delta Hospital closed down services. They couldn't afford it. If they leave the service open, they have to provide it to anybody, regardless if they have insurance or not. If they're uninsured, if they're commercially insured, if they're self-insured, if they're Medicaid, regardless. If they are uninsured, if the hospital is providing the service, so if the hospital is providing maternal health care, they have to provide it to anyone and everyone. So when they don't get paid under Medicaid and their provider rates go down, and we don't even keep up with inflation, they close the service. And that's what I meant by no one in that area gets that service because it is closed. When that Loveland Hospital closed their emergency services, that means nobody gets to go there for emergency services. Doesn't matter if you have insurance or not. You don't get to go there because they aren't providing it. And they closed it because it's so expensive and they can't make it work. And that's what's going on in our state. So there are people, because of laws that we have passed, because of programs that we created, a state entitlement program that does not pull down any federal funds, and at the same time, you cut the programs that do pull down federal funds, there are people throughout the state of Colorado that are not getting care. They are not getting care. So this amendment is basically trying to ensure that everyone has access to health care, that we don't decimate our health care system in the state of Colorado. The hospital associations have been telling us for years, they're barely getting by. Talk to a rural hospital executive. They're looking at closing, completely closing, several hospitals in this state, completely closing. Denver Health, every year, we have to essentially prop them up because the Medicaid provider rate and their payer mix, the Medicaid provider rate is so low and their payer mix is so high on government-funded programs like Medicaid, they are barely making it by. It is not a good situation in our state when we have numerous hospitals that are on month to month. They are going month to month. Now, I'm sure some of you feel okay because maybe not. I don't know. I would hope not. But I'm sure there are some people who feel okay because it's not the hospital in their area. Start thinking about over a year ago when Salud Clinic, who has clinics up and down this Front Range, had to start closing and stopping services and had to lay people off. There's a direct relationship to not reimbursing at an appropriate level to healthcare services closing in our state. A direct relationship. So if they close, if Salud closes, They cut the service. It doesn't matter if we have Covering All Coloradoans insurance. That's what it is. It doesn't matter if we have Omni Salud. It doesn't matter if you have commercial insurance. It doesn't matter if you have your insurance through the state. It doesn't matter if you're on Medicaid. No one gets access to health care. And it doesn't make sense. I have a hard time reconciling, and I think everyone in this room does, why we would cut the program that pulls down more than a 50% match from the federal government. Why we would cut a program by $110 million and only save $38 million bucks, but jeopardize access to health care in the state of Colorado. Does not make sense. This is not about a human value decision. This is about a fiscal decision that clearly does not make sense for the state of Colorado, and it needs to be fixed. No one is saying up here that we shouldn't be looking to ensure that everyone has access to a healthcare system in their area. We are all saying we should. And we need to figure out how to make that happen. And what we are doing is making the situation worse. It is making it worse. Talk to your hospitals. Talk to your healthcare provider. Ask your doctor. In appropriations this year, I think last year we may have had one person. This year we had like 4 or 5 people who came forward in appropriations. Medical association folks, anesthesiologists, family caregivers, all talking about the cuts to the provider rates and to other rates for the services that they provide and how difficult it is for them to continue to provide those services. Every single one of them. If you want healthcare access for everybody in this state, regardless of what type of insurance they have, we need to pull down those federal dollars, and we need to at least have, a 1.6% increase in a year when we had 2.4% inflation. That's what the providers are saying. That's what everyone is asking for. This is about access to health care, and yes, it would be sending a message. We're very clear on that, and I know it. But to act like that somehow we're doing something horrendous to a group of citizens in our state, we are not. This amendment is saying we need to preserve and protect our health care access in the state of Colorado for everyone. And we're not doing that, folks. We are failing. And that was we, as in all of us. We are failing the citizens of Colorado because we are jeopardizing access to health care for everyone in this state. And we know it, and we're not doing anything about it. I would urge an aye vote on the amendment.
Further discussion on J9. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important as we have debates like this that they're grounded in facts. And so there's just a couple of things I want to make very clear that are just factual corrections on this. Number one, Omni Salud provides health care, not health insurance. They're very different, and the way that people use those services is very different. Omni Salud is health care, not health insurance. Happy to hear that folks are looking at ways we can preserve Omni Salud and get funding over there. Totally agree. Let's work on that. Next is that pregnant people do get a federal match. Pregnant people were included in the original Cover All Coloradans legislation. Pregnant people who are undocumented get a federal match. They do. That is just a fact. That is a decision that was made at the federal level. I think it has something to do with the feds deciding that the person who will be born would be born in the U.S. and therefore a citizen, at least for now. That is why those folks get coverage, but there is a federal match for the pregnant people in Cover All Colorado. However, this bill, this amendment right here takes $49 million away just from the part that covers kids. So it is correct that this bill, this amendment right here, is only about the people that do not get a federal match, which is the kids. That's all that is being capped here in this particular amendment. But here's the really important part about this amendment. It is a $49 million statement. And I don't mean that it's the number in the amendment is $49 million. I mean that if this amendment passes, we will be increasing by $49 million the general fund commitment for provider rates. Now, ostensibly, this amendment lowers the number over on the how much we pay to give health care to kids, right? And that's its sort of pay for, like, oh, this is revenue neutral. We're taking money from here, we're putting it over here. Except, as I said before, that is an entitlement program. Those kids are going to get their health care. Full stop. This amendment cannot stop that. A bill, legislation, could stop that. This amendment can't stop that. So this amendment pretends to take $49 million away from a line item that you can't actually take $49 million away from, but at the same time increases another line item. That increase is real. That increase will be in law. That increase happens. This is a $49 million bill. That is $49 million that we will have to balance in the budget in a couple of weeks. This is not a budget neutral statement. This amendment doesn't just not do anything because of the entitlement piece. This amendment actually increases what it is that we have to balance in the budget in a couple of weeks by $49 million. Now, maybe that's your priority. Maybe you're going to say, okay, cool, well, that's fine. That is the statement from this body that we think that's actually where you should be putting those dollars. Great. I would like to have that conversation in the budget, not in this. But this right here, to be clear, is not budget neutral. This costs us $49 million.
Is there further discussion on the adoption of J9? Senator Carson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take a few minutes to speak in favor of what I think is just a common sense amendment here from the senator from Castle Rock and the senator from Brighton. So we've all been talking about the growing costs of health care in this state, in this country now for a fair number of years. And so here we are now. Health care is clearly the largest budget item we have to grapple with for the state of Colorado, the state budget. Last week at some point, I picked up the newspaper back there, and the headline said, Coloradans are $1 billion in medical debt. $1 billion of medical debt just for folks in Colorado. Imagine what that is for the entire country. Billions and billions of dollars of medical debt. There's no question that we need every nickel we can get for health care in this state budget. And so I don't understand why we wouldn't take advantage of an amendment. I mean, I understand my colleague from Greenwood Village has made some points about some of the budget niceties, but all I can go by is the revenue estimates that were given by the folks we use here at the legislature. So that's what I'm operating on. And what I see here is a very common sense way to move money from one program where we do not get a federal match to a program where we do get a federal match. And if we need every single nickel we can get our hands on for health care in this state budget, that's just common sense. Now, over the interim, I had a lot of meetings with hospitals, with doctors, medical providers, long-term care facilities, in particular Christian living communities, long-term care facilities, which I spend a lot of time with because my mother was there in long-term care, skilled nursing, all the way to the end of her life for 10 years. And so I listened to those folks. And you know, what they're saying is you can't keep cutting the Medicaid reimbursement rate. And as our colleague from Brighton has pointed out, at some point in time, this whole system is going to collapse. You can't keep telling all of the medical providers of this state, you're just expected to endlessly provide Medicaid to help people get medical care, and you're going to get less and less and less of a reimbursement. And I can tell you in the long-term care world what that means, because we faced it, a lot of families are facing, is that it just means the cost is going to get shifted to, you know, the folks that are doing the private pay and trying to make ends meet in their families already, and providing medical care for their seniors in particular, what I'm familiar with in my conversations with Christian living communities. And so here we're just making an easy, what I think is just an easy hit to say, well, you're going to have to take 1.6% less of a reimbursement rate, and we expect you to continue to provide the same quality and volume of care that you've been providing all along. So I think we need to listen to those medical providers in our state, and this budget amendment gives us an opportunity to accomplish a lot of different things. Number one, we get more of a federal match. As I said, we need every nickel we can get. We can't walk away from a number which, as the senator from Brighton points out, could be as much as $100 million. We can't afford in this budget to be walking away from dollar amounts like that, $100 million. And I suspect there's other places in the budget on the health care side where we could make adjustments to make sure we're getting that federal match. You know, earlier, my first bill this session was on health care. Was to provide tax credit, Colorado State tax credit for folks who contribute to a health savings account. And, you know, I think middle-class families need that kind of health care assistance. I was told that health savings accounts are only for wealthy people. I wasn't aware of that, but I see health savings accounts as a great way for middle-class working Americans to marry that up with a high-deductible health care plan and use more of their own tax dollars for their health care. And so that's another way we can help people. But this amendment deals with a very logical way to help more people in this state. It's just a dollars and cents, and it's a numbers game. With this amendment, we get more resources, we get more dollars for health care in the state budget. And I think one of the ironies here is, you know, in the programs we're taking money out of, and there's been talk of, you know, we're all compassionate. We don't want to be harming pregnant moms and children that are in different programs. But the reality is, you know, the way the federal system works and the way our healthcare system works is those folks are going to get health care. Those folks are going to get health care because if they walk into a hospital with a sick child, that hospital is not going to turn them away. I think we all know that. That's just not the way our healthcare system works in this country. And so, again, you have a pot of money here we can take advantage of. Folks are still going to get health care, and we're going to say to our medical providers that we listen to you, we hear you, and another 1.6% cut in your reimbursement rate is not something we're going to do in this state budget. And we're going to continue to recognize the great work that you're doing to provide health care, and we don't expect you to constantly take a financial hit for that. I mean, at some point, the folks who provide all these medical services and the hospitals, the long-term care facilities, the doctors, the nurses, the physicians, they have to know that their state government is going to back them up and provide them reasonable resources to do the important work that they do. And so, I'm pleased to support what I think is just a common sense amendment here, and would help us to continue to work to balance this state budget, because we're going to have a lot more challenges here in the months to come. I'm hearing we've got another $850 million shortfall for the budget that's coming up. And so let's take advantage of the dollars that we can get here and support this important amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further discussion, Senator Bridges to J9.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things I want to correct. I was wrong about Omni Salute. I get things wrong every now and then. It happens. Facts are important. As I said, I was wrong about Omni Salute. You can, you're like, yeah, oh, thank you. They do provide free health insurance to 6,700 folks who win the lottery. They have a lottery for those slots every year through Colorado Connect. They subsidize the premiums and then receive health insurance through that plan. So that is the best information I have. 6,700. The number of kids enrolled in the Cover All Coloradans program, which also, for the record, is a title that does not exist in law. It is what we refer to this program as, the Cover All Coloradans program. It was a bill that added this particular program. It's not named that. That is just how it is referred to. So again, facts are important. Cover All Coloradans is not a thing in law. This coverage, this care for these folks is. Cover All Coloradans is a different kind of program for these kids, not through the Connect for Colorado Care program. And then finally, most importantly, I implied that the budget neutral implications of this amendment were stated by Senator Kirkmeyer. I did not mean to imply that. Senator Kirkmeyer is well aware that this amendment actually costs $49 million. The good senator from Kirkmeyersville. So, there we go. No federal match on the fine. That's true. This would be an increase in general fund spending of $49 million total. I think the amendment purports that it is budget neutral because it says we're taking $49 million from this place. We're going to spend $49 million in this place. The implication is that the amendment is budget neutral. Senator Kirkmeyer did not imply that or claim that. So the senator from Kirkmeyersville did not claim that or imply that. However, I do think that the amendment on its face implies that, and that's what I was referring to. No, this is great. I'm having a great time. I know you're all having a great time. So I have a gold one. So there you go. Facts are important. Thank you, everybody. Still ask for a no vote. We don't have $49 million to spend on this right now.
All right. Members, we are in the season of forgiveness, so far I'm not going to be handing out any fines up here, but let's not all push our luck either. Further discussion on J9. Senator Zamora Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to piggyback and reiterate what my colleague from Brighton said. As far as this isn't just going to impact a small portion, this is going to cause providers to exit the market. This is going to cause a scarcity. And when we have scarcity in the market, it increases the price of the good, in this case, healthcare. That is going to impact all of Coloradans. I have so many of my constituents, my friends, that say it is so expensive right now. They're barely able to make their payments in health care and get the care that they need. This is critical. I mean, in its basic economics, right? The providers are in a situation where they can't afford this. They're only getting partial reimbursement. And they are exiting the market. I urge a yes vote on Amendment J009. I think it's essential so we can keep our health care and protect Coloradans. Thank you.
To J9, Minority Leader Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just a couple of thoughts and comments. I actually wanted to read a note. I got several of these notes from physicians across my district, pretty vast, 14 counties. A number of those do fall in that maternity desert, as the good senator from Brighton was referring to. So again, I got several of these. I'm calling, emailing to ask that you vote no on House Bill 1155, and I'll get to the amendment. As a physician, we do not pick our patients or payer mix, but these cuts will seriously jeopardize care for some of our most vulnerable patients. Medicaid programs cover 1 in 4 Coloradans. More than 20 rural counties rely on Medicaid to serve more than 35% of their population. And I think that's applicable to 13 of the 14 counties I represent. These cuts will increase already, and I'm talking about provider rate cuts, increase already significant healthcare staffing shortages, and means care providers could be asked to rely on more dated, less expensive treatments for Medicaid patients, furthering inequities. I understand there's a funding crisis, but Colorado cannot balance on the budget of the backs of Medicaid patients. Please vote no on 1155. And he and I traded correspondences several times with a follow-up from this individual physician. I can't stress enough what a mess rural health care is right now. The prices being paid by patients and the hospitals and providers who take care of them. It's unsustainable. The amendment, which I rise in support of, J009, is an effort to correct some of this wrong direction that we're headed. Cutting provider rates at this stage of the game, again, to the doctor's point, is unsustainable. Recognize the challenges of how do you then fill that space. The amendment is a thoughtful path forward to leave the 1.6% increase in place and find a mechanism to fund that. It's imperative that we don't sacrifice this entire system. And the good senator from Brighton was pretty clear and clarity around the implications if we continue down this path we're going on. You're going to lose providers across the space. They can't pick and choose who they can provide. The amendment is a thoughtful way, again, to keep us on a path of at least furthering down the path of complete unsustainability. I rise in support of J009. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the adoption of J9? Seeing none, the question is the adoption of J9 to House Bill 1155. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Noes have it, and the amendment fails. Back to the bill. Is there further discussion on 1155? Senator Frizzell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was disappointing, but not entirely unexpected. Members, I don't know about you, but did anybody else open the actual supplemental bill? It's in my folder. So I'm one of those people, I still get the paper because I like the paper. But we have the book, and that has kind of a description of the supplemental bill. But this is really interesting to me because if you just even look at page 3, flip the page, And it talks about, oh shoot, I forgot my glasses, but what it talks about here is also part of this supplemental is an increase in full-time, thank you, full-time employee count. So we not only have this increase to a program that has far extended itself financially, but we also have the Healthcare Policy and Financing Department increasing their full-time employee count by, I believe it's 4.8, 4.6, I forget, let me look. I have that earmarked here in my handy-dandy book. 4.6 employees. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but we slice and dice our employees in an interesting way. But here's my question, because I'm like, we're in a structural deficit. We are facing at least $1 billion shortfall with a B going forward. And here we have a department adding to its employee count. I don't understand. And it's not like they have like 30 people where they need, you know, in the Healthcare Policy and Financing Department, Finance Department. It's not like they have just a few people and they are so overburdened they must, because life will not continue if they don't get 4.6 additional full-time employees, along with the salary and benefits that come with that. But actually, the reality is they currently employ 791.2 full-time employees. So almost 800 employees in the Healthcare Policy and Financing Department. Surely they could absorb whatever administrative duties that these 4.6 employees are tasked or will be tasked to undertake. Surely they could find that even in vacancy. So I have questions around that. I'm sorry, I find this unconscionable, because this is what I am hearing, and I think that you all are hearing the same thing. I am hearing from healthcare providers that they don't know how they're going to do business because we are cutting provider rates. I am hearing from medical supply companies who are saying, I can't provide wheelchairs at this price that I'm being compensated for. I cannot provide those cushions for people to sit on which they need medically, and will help them have other issues down the road. I can't do that for what I'm being compensated for. What is most disheartening to me are the letters and the emails and the phone calls that I get on a daily basis from parents who have children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, who are looking at having their long-term care hours cut in half. This is a letter, and I'm quite sure that you all received the same letter, because this letter is not from one of my constituents. This individual is from Thornton, this gentleman. And he sent me pictures of his children, all three of which have intellectual and developmental disabilities and require extraordinary care. And I keep these pictures and this letter on my desk because it reminds me, even though they are not my constituents, They are my constituents. They are citizens of the state of Colorado, and I have people who live in my neighborhood who are just like this. This is why we are here, folks, to help the most vulnerable. And the director of HICPUP needs 4.6 more employees. Meanwhile, we're cutting benefits to these children. Come on. Come on. I have heard our budget issues described as a crisis of priorities, and nothing defines that statement as much as this conversation today.
There is an amendment coming to the desk. Mr. Schaffler, kindly read J10 to 1155.
Amendment J10, amend
Senator
Ringgrove.
Frizzell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment is very similar to
Senator,
J0.
kindly move the
Oh,
amendment.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for the reminder. I don't know what I was thinking. Mr. Chair, I move Amendment J010 to House Bill 1155.
Very good. To the amendment.
Thank you. Members, this amendment is very straightforward. It is quite similar to the amendment that I ran just a couple of minutes ago, J009, which was received with such anticipation. Anyway, this amendment is really similar. It does cut or change the funding, not completely cut, there's still funding available for covering all Coloradans. But this amendment cuts that funding back to what was initially projected. And I'm going to go back to that fiscal note that I talked about earlier, because I think that it is really important, and I know that you all are really interested in this fiscal note just as I am. You know, we had some initial costs that were projected for this program, and they have far exceeded. Year after year, our costs, our expenditures in this, what has become an entitlement program, have increased over and over and over again, while we have continued to try to decrease our Medicaid provider rates. So the difference with this particular amendment is that it does not, and yes, this is not revenue neutral, but it does include a component where we are increasing and making whole our Medicaid providers and increasing that Medicaid provider rate back to what it needs to be. And there is an excess that in this particular amendment would be allocated to higher education. You are probably all very, very aware that higher education has seen remarkable cuts in funding over the last year, and here we are again. So this amendment transfers the funds in excess of what makes Medicaid provider rates whole. And I don't know if that's the appropriate terminology, but that's what I'm going to call it. But this amendment transfers those excess funds to the Department of Higher Ed to undo the cuts that were made in that department. And I do have a colleague who will be talking about this a lot more later on. So members, I'm really excited about this amendment, especially since we're talking about not only solving the problem of Medicaid provider rates being reduced, but also improving the financial straits that higher ed is in. So I ask for your aye vote.
Further discussion to J10, Senator Bridges.
You're going to say yes?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Same as the last bill, this purports to take $49 million for a program you can't actually take money for and then allocates it in various places. For the same reason I asked for no vote on the last one, I asked for no vote here. That $49 million is not $49 million that we have. Ask for a no vote.
Is there further discussion on J10? Seeing none, the question is the adoption of J10 to House Bill 1155. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. No. Noes have it. J10 is lost. Back to the bill 1155. Senator Malaga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't have an amendment, but I do want to take this opportunity to come up and start talking about the budget for HICPUF. Because I do agree with the good senator from Greenwood Village that facts do matter. I also agree with our other JBC member when she says, and she's talking about HICPUF and some of the issues that I don't know if it's waste so much as it's some kind of incompetence. And that's what I'm here to talk about, because we are here looking at cuts. We're here trying to figure out some really difficult budget situations. And we're doing that in a time when this department has lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Maybe that's fraud, maybe that's incompetence. But the facts are they have lost hundreds of millions of dollars. It's a little disappointing that this room isn't full to hear that, because these matter. These facts matter. And we're being asked to make difficult decisions as we hear about fraud in the NEMT program. $25 million is what the department says. You can go talk to the JBC staff. They don't even know how much. They're still trying to figure that out. That's unacceptable. Then let's talk about the extra-large wheelchair transport. 5 years of fraud and incompetence. 5 years. We're supposed to be paying $65 a transport. Members, take a guess at how much we were paying. $650. That news article that I quoted our JBC member from put it perfectly, that if you're a child on the corner selling a cup of lemonade and you're charging $1, it's like somebody coming up and giving you $10 for a cup of lemonade. Hundreds of millions of dollars lost. Hundreds of millions. Still trying to figure out how much. But we're being asked here to make cuts to provider rates. Let's put that into perspective. Hundreds of millions of dollars in loss because of fraud, because of incompetence, over 5 years. Yet we have to make the decision to cut provider rates, to make the difficult decisions around parents being able to take care of their disabled children, around our rural hospitals being able to get the funds they need to keep their doors open, while the department gets to do this for 5 years. This needs to be talked about. This needs to be at the forefront of everything we're looking at when we look at healthcare policy in this state right now. We have a really difficult budget situation coming up. And we're talking about care for some of the most vulnerable people in our state. And it cannot be allowed, the failure cannot be allowed to come out of this department any longer. It cannot happen when we are asked to cut care for vulnerable people in this state. And if we're not talking about it, if we're not angry about it, if we're not down here doing something about it, we're not doing our jobs. This is our time that we build that foundation. It's our job. I hope that we're up for the task.
Further discussion on House Bill 1155. Seeing none, the question is the adoption of House Bill 1155. All those in favor, please say aye. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. Ayes have it. 1155 is adopted. Mr. Schaffner, please read the title to House Bill 1156.
House Bill 1156 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Higher Education.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1156.
To the bill.
Thank you. There is a reduction to higher ed in this measure. The reduction was made in consultation with the higher education institutions in the state. It was done in between our special session and today. And what we heard from the institutions is this is an absorbable cut. It's not ideal, nobody likes it, but as far as a terrible budget goes, this is a hit they can take. Of course, we have increased funding for higher education in this state over the last 4 years by more than I think any other 4-year period in Colorado history. This is a minor cut, and we will be discussing more in the budget about higher education. Ask for an aye vote on 1156.
Speaking of discussion, looks like there is some. Senator Arpel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate that the institutions have agreed to look at maybe some ways to cut. These cuts, though, disproportionately hit the institutions and community colleges in rural Colorado. I have a lot of students in my district along the Eastern Plains and southern border that they go to Texas to go to school because it's way too expensive to go to school in Colorado. Part of them having to absorb some of this cut may be higher tuition, and then we'll lose even more students to Texas. I think there are better places that we can cut. When we're cutting funding to higher education, the consequences are immediate and real. They may have to cut programs, may have to cut courses. And so then they will be looking for other places to go also. I don't think we should sacrifice our higher education system to out of state when they can get quality education here. And community colleges, a lot of them have trade schools within their college, and that is really an area we need to really concentrate on. All the trades in this state are low of people that do the work. So with that, I have an amendment.
There is an amendment coming to the desk. Mr. Schaffler, kindly read J002 to 1156.
Amendment J002, amend Ringross Bill, page 18, line 7 in the item.
Senator Arpel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move amendment J002.
Very good. 2J2.
So very simply, what this amendment does is just restores the funding back to where these colleges can concentrate on good programs, good quality education without having to raise the tuition, and especially in rural Colorado to help those community colleges and the 4-year colleges that are out in the country stay whole, not have to raise their tuition, and with that, I urge an aye vote.
Further discussion to J2 on 1156. Who'd like to go next? Senator Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'm here to speak to this amendment. I've got 2 universities and colleges in my district. One, Colorado Mountain College, that their system is, they've got small colleges in all the towns up in the mountains, which allows students to stay home and get their education. And then I've also got Western Colorado University in Gunnison. Both of these higher education systems are very functional. They've done a lot of things with very little money in relationship to the big guys here on the Front Range. I would imagine that the budget for Western might be less than a department up in Boulder. So what I'm here to say is cutting the dollars from them, they say that they came in and said, well, yeah, we could live with these cuts, but it's also like going to to your boss after they call you into the office and say, well, we're not going to be able to pay you as much as we have been but that's up to you if you want to stay. They don't really have a choice to say, I'm sorry, but we just can't take that. So that's left up to me to come to you to say, listen, we need to hear what's being done in those areas. They are doing things that, on a creative way, that we're not hearing about in other universities. Not to put the other ones down, but to brag up the ones that are out there trying to do something new and different. You know, in Gunnison, they're now in the process of saying if you were born and raised in that valley, that you can go to the university free of charge. And that's for, you know, local people that come from Gunnison County and from Hinsdale County. I think that's unheard of. Yet, we're still going to cut their funds. So, you know, during the ongoing structural deficit, the General Assembly must make deliberate choices about where limited dollars will do the most good. These two institutions are where we can do the most good. You know, I've had people here from Western Colorado University, and they are from your districts. They're going to Gunnison to go to school. That's what they've chosen to do. They're leaving this area, which has, granted, some of the greatest universities you could offer, but have decided they wanted something different. And that something different is smaller, more intimate. If they're like I was, I went to one of these great big schools, went to see my counselor 5 times. He didn't know my name. On the 5th one, I said, what are you doing to help me, man? So I didn't go back. But in those kind of places, you get to be friends with the people that are educating you. Lifetime relationships are established. And I know that for a fact in my life. Lifetime relationships were established with me and the professors that I had in smaller universities. They cared about me, I could tell. They came to places where I worked to see how I was doing. I'm not sure that happens when you get to a place that's got more students than my home county has population. So, you know, this amendment clearly prioritizes Colorado students, Colorado families, and Colorado institutions of higher education. I would ask for a yes vote on J002.
Further discussion on J2, Senator Beepelt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As somebody who attended Colorado Mountain College and Northeastern Junior College, I'm pretty excited about this amendment. Making sure that our folks can afford to still go there without having increased tuition rates. The good senator from Cheyenne Wells had said that people are going down to Texas, and they are, straight from my district. So it's it's cheaper to go there. They're also going to Wyoming. They're also going to Nebraska. So these are things that are happening because our tuitions are getting to be out of control in Colorado. I think this is not an unreasonable amendment to ask for. We certainly need to do something to make sure that our people can still go to school in-state. I mean, don't get me wrong, in Wyoming, if you're from Colorado, you get to in-state tuition as well, in Wyoming and in Texas. So that's how they're stealing our students or getting our students to go there. So, I mean, this is a pretty reasonable ask. And like the good senator from Montrose said, I mean, he's the same, I mean, you build relationships there. I know the good senator from Cheyenne Wells went to NJC as well. So there's a lot of things that you learn at a rural college. You can actually learn how to be the Denver mayor one day. Because at NJC, we have a celebrity, his pictures are all over the place, and that's the former Denver mayor, Wellington Webb, was there. Went to college there at NJC on a basketball scholarship. So, and when I met him out here not too long ago, just recently, I said, hey, I know you. You got pictures all over the place. So, but it's a pretty big deal. So, I rise in support of this amendment. Ask my colleagues to please vote yes. Again, this is one of those amendments that would help our communities, especially in our smaller communities out in rural Colorado.
Further discussion on J2, Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, the colleges across the state have absorbed these cuts already. They actually do have the ability to come back and say, oh, we can't absorb this. There was an original proposal from the Gov's office that did this in a way that the universities came back and said, that way of cutting is actually much more harmful to us. If you're going to cut, please do it in this way instead. So there was conversation with these schools. Of course, no one is going to say no to more money. Of course, anyone at these schools, if you say, well, would you like $1 million more? They're going to say yes, obviously. But the cuts that were made over the interim have been absorbed already, have not had deleterious effects on the quality of education at these institutions, and did not come with a corresponding increase in tuition. So there has been no tuition increase for folks attending these colleges. Ask for a no vote.
Further discussion on J2 to 1156. Seeing none, the question is the adoption of J2 to House Bill 1156. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. No. Noes have it, the amendment is lost. Back to the bill, Senator Arpelton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm going to try again. Just because our community colleges are so important, because of the trade programs they have within their system. Our state is in desperate need of more people in the trades. So with that,
There's an amendment coming to the desk. Mr. Schaffler, please read J3 to 1156.
Amendment J3,
Senator
amending Rose
Arpelton.
Bill.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment J003.
To the amendment.
Thank you. What this amendment does is it restores half the funding for the four-year colleges, full funding back to the community colleges. The good senator from Sterling is right. The students that go to Texas and Wyoming, they are getting in-state tuition in those states and paying less money. So we have to do everything we can to keep those colleges whole so we don't lose those students. Community colleges in the state do serve as an affordable and accessible entry into higher education. They're the backbone of Colorado's workforce. This amendment affirms that funding higher education is not optional, it's essential to Colorado's future. So I'd ask for a yes vote on 003.
Further discussion to J3, Senator Amabile.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I live in a college town, and I think higher ed is one of the most important things we could and should be doing in our state, and that everyone should have access. And yet, the colleges have absorbed the cuts. We have the budget ahead of us, and I hope you all will be on board to advocate then. But in this supplemental, this is something that we need to do. I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Senator Catlin to J3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm here again to talk to you about those small universities and colleges on the western slope particularly. You know, one of the things I'd like to remind you that they are the backbone of Colorado's workforce, to tell you the truth, providing rapid training, certifications, and degrees aligned with local employer needs in healthcare, skilled trades, manufacturing, and technology. Western Colorado University just opened a nurses program, which we've talked incessantly about medicine and how we get medicine care to people and those kind of things. Well, it kind of gears right off of where nurses start. And that's one of the things they've decided that they will start to offer to the western slope of Colorado is another nursing program for people right there in that community and on the western locale. We need them. As was mentioned earlier by a good colleague of mine, this is where we're just starting, I think. This is a good place for us to start advocating for those universities and colleges, is here on this supplemental. If nothing more than to remind people that we are out there and they are feeling a great need. You know, it's been said before, and I'll say it quickly right now. The amendment affirms that funding higher education is not optional. It's essential to Colorado's future, and we've proved that for the last 3 or 4 years. So anyway, I'd ask for a yes vote on amendment J003. Thank you.
To J3, Senator Ridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in support of Amendment J003. Of course, I live in Grand Junction, and we have Colorado Mesa University, but we also have a community college that provides a lot of technical trades for the workforce. And this amendment clearly prioritizes Colorado's students, Colorado families, Colorado's institutions, especially the community college that deliver the greatest workforce on investment. It restores funding to institutions that educate our workforce, jobs that happen right now. It drives research and innovation and serves as economic anchors in communities across the state. If we want a stronger workforce, a more competitive economy, and affordable pathways for Coloradans to succeed, we must stop balancing this budget on the backs of our colleges and universities. I want to thank the good senator, from Cheyenne Wells for bringing this amendment, J003, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there further discussion? Senator Arpelton to J3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to renew my call to approve 003. It's a little more targeted approach at this cut. I realize it's been said over and over. I even had a higher ed lobbyist tell me, you know, they're working on this, but let's not make it overburdensome, and let's pass 003.
Further discussion, Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to put these numbers in context. So when we're talking about the dollars amount here in this bill, sort of what it looks like as a percentage related to what it is that we in the budget are giving to these institutions of higher education. Because these numbers on their own can look like a lot, but when you put it in context of what these institutions get, it's actually, it's not make or break for these folks. So for instance, the University of Colorado system from the general fund receives over $300 million. The Colorado State University system receives over $225 million. The community college system receives more than $250 million. The Metro receives just under $100 million. UNC receives a little over 60, I think 70 in the last bill. Mesa gets 50, Fort Lewis gets around 30, but that is before the tuition waiver that we provide for Native American students, which adds about another, I think it's tens of millions. I'm not exactly sure on that particular number, but it's a great deal. Mines gets 33 million. Western gets a little over 20. Adams gets a little over 20. So in context, while these cuts look significant, the total dollar amount that these schools receive from the state is still rather high, and as I mentioned, has increased over the last 4 years more than just about any other 4-year period in the entire history of the state of Colorado. So I understand the desire to keep our schools strong. I think we are keeping our schools strong with the commitment that we have. Certainly have made them stronger over the last 4 years. Ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Further discussion to J3, Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and maybe someone can come up and, or the chair can refresh my memory on this. The previous amendment was a 3-pager. This is a 2-pager. And we normally have rules in which something that is multiple pages, we get them in advance. Trying to match these numbers to a booklet there that I have in front of me is a lot of the stuff that I was doing last night. And now that there's new numbers that I need to look at in there, and it would have been helpful had people, unless they just printed these up moments ago, to give us these numbers so we could have taken a look before. But if there's some other kind of a rule that I have lost track of, please feel free to remind me. Thank you.
All right, members, and for anyone listening, the question is how the customary one-page, 24-hour rule governs second reading amendments applies in the budget context. We do have the generally applicable rule that if you want to have an amendment for a bill other than a budget bill on second reading, it can be a page, it can happen right away, or if you are going to have a multi-pager, it needs to be printed on the gold paper and go to all of our desks in advance. That's so that members have opportunity to consider the policy that's going to come. Because of the technical nature of the budget and sort of the necessity of drafting amendments to the budget in a way that ends up technically cumbersome, even if it is conceptually simple. The amendments often do run to more than a page, and it is my understanding that we have never applied the one-page rule against amendments that are written to the budget, either the long bill itself or supplemental bills, which are, after all, amending last year's budget. So that is how it comes to be that multiple-page amendments are properly before us inside of 24 hours. Senator R. Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And another consideration is we had till 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon to make the amendments. That was explained in our caucus meetings. So, yeah, so that's, and I've been reminded we're on special orders also, but that's the reason multi-page didn't get put on our desk.
All right, with those notes, is there further discussion to J3? Seeing none, the question is the adoption of J3 to House Bill 1156. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The noes have it, J3 fails. Is there further discussion on House Bill 1156? Seeing none, the question is the passage of House Bill 1156 on second reading. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it, 1156 is adopted. Mr. Schaffler, kindly read the title to House Bill 1163.
House Bill 1163 by Representatives Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Natural Resources.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1162.
Thank you. To the bill. All right, Senator Pelton. Senator
Thank
Beeville.
you, Mr. Chair. So when we were discussing this in our caucus meeting, one of the things that I noticed in it was we're talking about this bill is going to increase the cost for from the wildlife cash funds to double CPW's range rider service from roughly 10 to 20 riders. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. But my question was, and the good senator from Greenwood Village actually said in the approps meeting that I was in that they have shake their fingers and wag their fingers and talk sternly to them, very sternly, about not slow rolling the range riders out. That's kind of my issue with this. I appreciate getting the money and doing that, but it just has been time and time and time for these folks that are dealing with the wolves to be able to have people helping them to protect their stock, their livestock. And it's getting to be very frustrating for these folks. Now, I will tell you that I don't have wolves in my district, and it's an economy thing for me. Those same cattle that are raised over on the western slope end up in my feedlots, get sold at the sale barns in my district. And we need that as part of our economy. But as being somebody who grew up in the Roaring Fork Valley and know how tough it is to deal with the calving season when it's freezing cold, you got snow on the ground, maybe not this year, you don't have as much snow, but there's snow on the ground and you're dealing with calving season, and then you got, on top of that, you have to deal with wolves attacking your animals. It's just very frustrating. So I do appreciate this. I do appreciate the CPW getting 20 more riders, or 10 more riders to a total of 20. But I will say that I would like to see them really roll it out in a manner where we can actually protect our animals and livestock, and not sit there and wait forever and actually have trained folks doing it. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about this, because being frustrated about this whole situation with Colorado Parks and Wildlife has just been constant this last 4 years for me being up here, and just absolutely frustrated with all of the wolves and the range riders and all the, I don't know what the flattery, is that what they call it? Whatever they call it, with the stuff that they put, flattery, yeah, that they put out. I mean, these guys are really, when you raise livestock, it's a very difficult job, and we put food on the table for the world, and it's just disrespectful to these folks when you promise them something and it takes forever to get it rolled out. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Further discussion to 1163, Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to come up and support 261163. We could have put this on consent. We decided not to, because this is one of those situations where, or one of the cases where both at CPW Commission meetings and at the Joint Budget Committee meeting, we've had several discussions on this. And when the good senator, who shall not be named by his first name or his last name, but the good senator from Greenwood Village, and I had the conversations with the CPW folks at the Joint Budget Committee, we brought up that we had been speaking with farmers and ranchers throughout the state who said that there weren't enough range riders in the state. And so it's one of those cases where we want to say thank you for listening and thank you for acting upon this. So with that, I would encourage an aye vote on this bill. And thank you to the good senator from Greenwood Village for working with us on this. We worked together on this one. This was a good one, so good job.
All right, a bipartisan moment. Further discussion to 1163. Seeing none, the question is the passage of House Bill 1163 on second reading. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, the ayes have it. 1163 is adopted. Minister Schaffler, please read the title to 1165.
House Bill 1165 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Public Health and Environment.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1165.
Properly moved. Is there discussion? Senator B. Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been waiting for this one all day. So you know how my love of the health department is when we ever talk about this in with the budget process and now the supplemental process. So I'm going to bring an amendment today, and what this amendment will do is that it'll reprioritize funding for within the Colorado Department of Health, Public Health and Environment to make clear that restoring and maintaining the state laboratory is a core public health responsibility. So when I talked to the CDPHE yesterday, I told them what I was going to do, and I got this really nice email that I wanted to read for everybody before I get started. So because it was a very nice email. And it talks about how the CDPHE legislative team has consisted of at least 3 members since 2021. And these team members are of critical importance to the department and their ability to respond to requests from members of the General Assembly. And the CDPHE legislative team currently consists of only 3 members. The hiring that occurred during 2025 intern was only to fill vacancies that occurred after the 2025 legislative session. So what I'm going to support, what I'm going to propose here with this is that in 2024, the state lab lost its EPA certification for water chemistry testing due to internal quality control failures. The failure that put Colorado's drinking water oversight and public trust at risk. The General Assembly has already provided funding for the lab renewal and corrective actions. The question now is whether the department is aligning its internal spending with that priority. Just 1 month before requesting millions in supplemental funding related to the lab, the department hired their legislative liaison positions, despite the hiring freeze at the cost of more $300,000. Now, if I remember right, I think they only hired 2 people, but they still have 3 people there. And so if the department had funding available to expand its legislative staff, then it had funding available to prioritize its laboratory. So I'm going to offer this amendment.
There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Schaffer, will you please read J004?
Amendment J004.
Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move J004.
So moved to the amendment.
Thank you. This amendment cuts funding for those 3 recently hired legislative liaison positions and reduces the funding in the Office of Health Equity and Environmental Justice, including the 3 FTE that were shifted there during a period of budget growth. When we created the expanded the new office during surplus years, it was easy to add positions. In a structural deficit, we must reassess what is essential and what is not. Safe drinking water, EPA compliance, and laboratory integrity are essential. Expanding an administration is not. This amendment also finds that remaining funds in the executive director's office tasks the department heads with making up for their costs, and it does not cut core lab functions, water testing, or frontline public health services. It simply makes clear that when resources are limited, the department must prioritize maintaining its state lab and restoring public confidence before it expands its own department. Now, every year since I've been here, me and the good senator from Greenwood Village have always had this argument during the budget about how much CDP has expanded and by how many people. And if I remember right, it's a total of around 200% FTE over 8 years, if I remember right. It's something in there. It's approximately sometime in there. All I'm looking at is the legislative staff folks, and I'm looking at the other part that the health equity and environmental justice, FTE, looking at getting rid of those so we can use that money to put to the lab, to make sure that the lab has enough money. So, and that we can actually become in compliance. So there's a new EPA director. He might be great and listening to us, so making sure that we can become compliant. But this is what I'm asking for. Clean drinking water should be more important than expanding your administration, than hiring more FTE. So I ask for an aye vote on J002.
Senator Amabile.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to my colleague from Sterling. And I will just say that this, we've had a lot of conversations about the labs, about the testing, and we did give money for testing and for the labs and to improve what they're doing. We all want clean water, and we can have a more fulsome discussion about what our hopes and dreams are for CDPHE when we do the budget. But this is not something we should do right now in the supplemental, and I ask for a no vote.
Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do need more money for testing. My district and my home county, every day you hear about another well that's got nitrates in it. A lot of people are testing their wells out there. So There's places to cut. It's been identified by the good senator from Sterling. Let's move that money, reduce the administration, put it over here in testing. So I rise in support.
Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm confident this amendment would be flexible enough because I'm confident that the director is a former county commissioner, and this is how we used to do our budgets in our own counties, is we would take from one place and give to another one, especially when you can do that in your legislative budget or whatever they get you in that area. But I think that she would be able to do that because that's how, I mean, I just can't come in here and run a bill to cut all the FTE. I have to say that we would like you to use this money to use it for this area over in here, and then you can figure out how to do it yourself. And I think that kind of local control is great, and especially in a department, and I think that they should be able to do it. I am confident that the director of this department would be able to do that. So I vote on J002.
Senator Kirkmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I love this amendment. And whether it passes or not, I think it brings to light some of the poor budgeting practices that are being exemplified in some of our departments. We heard earlier with regard to healthcare policy and finance. Here's one in the Department of Public Health and Environment. So members, we did have a lot of discussion, and I don't think anyone disagrees that there isn't the need for to have an EPA certified lab that does water testing in the state, especially when they're water testing not only public school or public water systems in municipalities, but also in our schools and school districts and things of that nature. So extremely important. The thing is, when we were having the discussion with regard to the EPA need for certification, because again, how did they lose that? I mean, go back and you can read the articles on it. Just one more department that's had issues. But when we were talking about the funding, we talked about this several times. We talked about it in an emergency supplemental where we gave them additional money and to do the testing that they needed to do or to start getting the EPA certification that they did. If I remember correctly, though, our last supplemental, it was more than just EPA recertification. There was a bunch of other things in it. And again, I had my say at the Joint Budget Committee. I'm sure I'll have more say about it again, but I appreciate bringing forward an amendment that demonstrates that while we were having that discussion at the Joint Budget Committee, not once did the department let us know that they were hiring or had 3 things out hired for basically 3 legislative liaison positions. So again, back to one of my comments, crisis of priorities. We've got an administration that has a crisis of priorities. They come and ask us for more at the Joint Budget Committee for more general fund to fund the lab. Makes sense until you think, wow. In the meantime, though, they're using other general fund monies that they could have used for the lab recertification and for the FTE that they wanted in the lab. They're using that for more legislative liaison positions so they can come lobby us more, I guess. So I appreciate the amendment coming forward. I understand the issues maybe that it presents for the budget, but come figure setting, this is some great places for us to be looking for some budget savings at the Department of Public Health and Environment, a department that over the course of the first 6 years of this administration grew by over 200%.
Senator Frizzell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a bit of a Groundhog Day moment for me, just simply because, again, we have a State Department who feels that they should operate far differently than we ask Colorado citizens to operate. I don't know about you all, but I hear from my constituents daily, sometimes many times a day, about how their cost of living has increased, how their property taxes have increased, how the cost of homeowners insurance has increased, how the cost of health insurance has increased, how the cost of groceries has increased. And this is not in the last year. This has been going on year after year after year after year. And we have departments in the state of Colorado who believe that while we should be asking Coloradans to tighten their belts so that they can provide the basics to their family, that they should be allowed to grow their budgets year after year after year with no accountability to the citizens of Colorado. 200% this particular department has grown. I fail to understand the importance of legislative liaison positions when we are asking Colorado citizens to tighten their belt again. I fail to understand the priorities of CDPHE. I'm sorry, I don't get it. And this is why. And I'm going to hearken back to some of the recent audit results that we've seen in this department and the various divisions in the department, and how they aren't inspecting nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities. They aren't doing it. They have kind of requirements that they do it. They have antiquated technology for tracking various functions that they need to do. I mean, heck, they can't even apparently use an Excel spreadsheet. It's embarrassing. Meanwhile, I have a constituent who brought to my attention some significant issues in a skilled nursing facility where her mother died. But we need 3 legislative liaisons. If I were to get on the phone and call up the director for Parker Water and Sanitation or the director for Castle Rock Water, I'm pretty sure that they would tell me the same thing that they've been telling me for the past 3 years, and that is CDPHE is years behind on permitting new water facilities. I don't know if you all have driven down I-25 recently, but Parker and Castle Rock have grown immensely. We are essentially operating our water treatment facilities and water providers in Douglas County. These are 2 of the big ones on waivers because they still are waiting for permits on new facilities. But we do need 3 additional legislative liaisons. That's important. Good call. That's a great way to prioritize. Members, I think that it would be really important to have this conversation when we have the long bill in front of us. I agree. We need to have some really significant conversations about this and other departments. But right now, I am a yes vote on this amendment. It's an incredibly important amendment. And I ask for your aye vote.
The motion is the adoption of J004. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No! The noes have it. J004 is lost. The motion is the adoption of House Bill 1165. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1165 is adopted. Mr. Schaffler, will you please read House Bill 261166?
House Bill 1166 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Public Safety.
Senator Mobley.
I move House Bill 1166
And
and the Appropriations Committee report.
to the committee report.
To the committee report. Yeah, I
The
guess-
motion is the adoption of the committee report for House Bill 1166. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is adopted. To the bill. Senator Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm of the opinion that this particular supplemental needs some supplementing. Therefore, I have an amendment.
There is an amendment at the desk to supplement the supplemental. Mr. Schaffel, will you please read J006?
Amendment J006.
Senator Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move J6 to 1166.
So move to the amendment.
All right. Members, I'm going to say briefly what this is about, and then I'm going to remind us of some history and state some reasons why I'm asking for support for J6. What J6 does in substance is to allocate $1 million from something you may remember from years ago called the Revenue Loss Restoration Cash Fund for the purpose of further DNA testing capacity through CBI Laboratory Services. So DPS is a big department. One of their divisions is CBI. Part of what CBI does is forensic services, colloquially the crime lab. A year ago, we all realized that we had come to run quite an inexcusable backlog in how quickly we were turning around DNA cases and sex assault cases. There's a lot in the press. We had some very powerful testimony in the Judiciary Committee. And we all went to work on the subject. And I'm grateful for that. The JBC was involved, other legislators were involved. We passed SB 105 on this subject. We passed SB 170 on this subject. We passed SB 304 also on this subject. I want to be clear, I'm not trying to necessarily assign blame. We had been underinvesting in our laboratory capacity for a number of years. Then one individual, whom I'm not going to name here, has gotten in the press, and that matter probably didn't help things. At any rate, we were in a deep hole, and we needed to start climbing out of that hole. Now, you may be aware, we have climbed partway out of that hole, and that's great. The premise of this amendment is that if you started 10 feet underground, and a year later you initially thought you might have only climbed out to be 7 feet under, and now you're 5 feet under, you can look at that and you can say, great, I'm 2 feet higher than I wanted to be. My premise is the goal is not -5. The goal is level ground. The goal is 0. The goal is let's not be underground. Let's not be running a backlog. So in conversations about all of this, I've identified that being able to outsource a little bit more work for the cost of $1 million one-time dollars would help us get further caught up. Now, every member of the General Assembly, House, Senate, Democratic, Republican, should get a monthly email update from the department with some information about this, because we told them to send it so that we can know what's going on. So relative to initial expectations, yeah, we're doing a little bit better, and I'm nothing but grateful for that, but we have more work to do. There are still over 1,400 pending cases with DNA test work needing to happen. We've been focusing on the sex assault backlog. That has come down, still almost 200 days. There's also the question of other test work that needs to happen, DNA testing that's not necessarily a sex assault evidence kit, that can arise out of a variety of crimes, homicide, assault, all manner of things that we want to have consequences for. That's actually 266 days. So, you know, we could keep going how we're going, and we'll get there. We'll get better eventually. Or this could be one of those things where we don't just tell ourselves we solved it once, or we keep working at it year after year. That's why I'm up here making an issue of this. I want to suggest that if you are about resolution for survivors of crimes, and I think that we all are, I hope that you'll vote yes. If you are about consequences for those who commit crimes, and I think we have a lot of debate about what the right consequences are in here, but I think we're all for some consequences, then you should be for moving this work along. Because as a reminder, whether you think there should be more of a sentence or less, probation eligible or mandatory, that's all the way at the back end. That happens after a plea or maybe a jury verdict. But before that, you had a charge. Before that, you had an arrest. Before that, you had to establish probable cause. And the reality is that not a lot of arrests are even going to be made, for example, in cases of sexual assault, where you don't have this work turned around because of the concern that there will not be sufficient evidence to establish probable cause. So you've got people out there who've been sexually assaulted or otherwise offended against, waiting for an arrest to be made. This is where the whole criminal legal process starts, is sorting the evidence. The latest update that we got from DPS also notes, there's a qualitative section at the end. This is here because we asked them to put it there for our own awareness. Any senator who represents even part of Colorado Springs, I think, should have an interest in this, because as the update notes, the Colorado Springs Metro Crime Lab, operated by CSPD, has requested CBI assistance with sexual assault case testing. Metro Crime Lab is experiencing staff turnover in the DNA section. CSPD submitted 62 backlogged sex assault cases in June 25 to CBI and anticipates submitting approximately 100 more in the next year. I think beyond the context of this amendment and the supplemental, there's a great deal more work to do to facilitate better communication, collaboration, and getting the work done between the state lab and our local labs. Again, subject for another time. But the reality is, if members don't know, work has in the last year moved around due to staff shortages. It's nobody's fault. So this is the state system that we're controlling the funding for and that we're talking about the funding for here, picking up some of the slack where there have been turnovers in local staffing. We're talking about a big city in a big county in one of our biggest judicial districts. So members might have a particular interest in that. We have talked this morning about a lot of truly needful priorities, and I do not in any way make light of those. This year is nothing but hard decisions. But because of what we all became aware of last year, because of how deeply I am committed to this issue, I'm inviting us to grapple with one more hard decision. Compared to some of the numbers that we have just talked about, this is a smaller one. This is $1 million, even from a cash fund where money has reverted to and is just sitting there. This is not base building. This is not an ongoing obligation. This is classic one-time money. Do some contracting, get some work done, move toward a goal that we should move toward. I ask for your support.
Senator Mobley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to my good colleague from Aurora. I mean, I do think that this is a real problem, and we put real money into addressing this last year, and the department has made real progress. They have contracted with outside testing agencies, they have stepped up their game, and they are moving us in the right direction. And we have a lot of other demands right now on the budget, and every $1 million here takes $1 million from there. And as we get more and different information, we might come up with more and different solutions, but I think this is something that I don't want to do right now in this supplemental, and I would ask for a no vote.
The motion is the adoption of J6 to House Bill 1166. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The noes have it. J6 is lost. The motion is the adoption of House Bill 1166. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. 1166 is adopted. Mr. Schaffler, will you please read House Bill 1167? Hey, hey.
House Bill 1167 by Representative Sirota and Senator Bridges concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Regulatory Agencies.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1167.
The motion is the adoption of House Bill 1167.
Yes.
Said
And the committee report.
there is no committee report.
I don't.
So the motion is the adoption of House Bill 1167. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. House Bill 1167 is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Mr. Schaffler, please excuse Senator Gonzalez and Senator Danielson. And do not excuse the minority leader. Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Schaffler. Also, please excuse Senator Catlin. And now, Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee of the whole has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Schaffler, will you please read the report?
February 19th, 2026. Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1151, House Bill 1155, House Bill 1156, House Bill 1163, House Bill 1165, House Bill 1166, as amended, House Bill 1167, passed on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator. Yeah. Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Schaffler, please read S001 to House Bill 1156.
Amendment S001. Senator Pelton moved to amend the report.
Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Cal Amendment 1.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. I made the argument earlier that higher education shouldn't be taking these cuts. I still think that they should not have to, should not do it. So I ask for a yes vote on 001.
Further discussion. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that there's two really important things to know about this cut that was made to Department of Higher Education. First, it was done in cooperation is perhaps too strong of a word, but certainly in consultation with the institutions of higher education, done in a way that they have told us is absorbable. And more importantly, this total is a cut to their general fund portion of what they bring in of about 2%. Or, sorry, not 2, 0.2%. This is a very minor reduction overall in what it is they bring in. To the community colleges, it is, if you take into account tuition, a 0.6% cut overall, because community colleges do receive more in general fund than in relationship, their general fund relationship to their tuition. General fund is a larger portion of their overall budget than tuition is, than say a University of Colorado system, where they have an enormous amount of money they bring in through tuition, and that doesn't even include the other sources of revenue that an institution like that has. So we're talking about between a 0.2 to a 0.6% reduction in the overall budget for these institutions. It's important to note, though, that we increased general fund spending in higher ed by 2.5% last year. So this is a small reduction in the increase that we made last year. Overall, institutions of higher education are still up about 2% from where they were a year ago. So this is a cut to the increase that we made last year. It is a reasonable cut. It's one they can absorb. Ask for a no vote on the amendment.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the adoption of S001 to House Bill 1156. Are there any no votes? Senators, Mr. Majority Leader, Cutter, Marchman, Wallace, Kipp, Judah, Amabile, Wiseman, Henriksen, Bridges, Snyder, Ball, Sullivan, Lindstadt, Colker, Exum. Is that Doherty? Oh, Mullica, sorry, wrong seat. I want to apologize. Roberts, sorry guys. Please add the president. With a vote of 11 ayes, 19 noes, 0 absent, 4 excused, and 1 vacant, S001 to House Bill 1156 is lost. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Schaffler, please read S001 to House Bill 1166.
Amendment S001, Senator Bridges moved to
Senator
amend.
Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move S001.
To the amendment.
I forgot to run this during the Committee of the Whole. This is a technical amendment that was driven by staff. There was a transposition of numbers. One number should have been in a place, and the other number was in a different. They just should have been switched. This changes nothing. I promise. This is the staff who. I'm very sorry. The beauty of the Senate. You are witnessing, though. This is real magic you're seeing here. This amendment. This is an amendment to the Committee of the Whole report to show that an amendment that was not run during the Committee of the Whole still passed during the Committee of the Whole, because in the Senate, you can run amendments that were not run during the Committee of the Whole. So, God bless the Senate. Thank you all so much for your indulgence. I am sorry, I could have run it on thirds. But you know, I know none of us, we don't want that. We don't want to hoot and holler. Let's just take care of it now. Ask for an aye vote.
You got to watch that guy. It sounded really good. A division has been, I'm just joking. The motion is the adoption of S001 to House Bill 1166. Are there any no votes? There we go. There we go. Senator Peltonar. Yeah, Senator Frizzell. Senator Zamora Wilson. Senator Rich. Yeah, Senator Basley.
Technical.
Senator Carson, Senator Bright, Senator Pelton B, and Carson again. Any no votes on principle? With a vote of, don't do it. With a vote of, stop it. You can't vote no on your own.
I could. I can do that.
With a vote of 22 ayes, 8 noes, 0 absent, 4 excused, S001, House Bill 1166 is adopted. You are not Kevin Priola. No more? All right. The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes?
Are you guys no on the cow?
Come on, don't remind people.
Cleve.
Senators
Cal, no
Frizzell,
on the committee of the whole? Just
Zamora Wilson, Rich,
distracted. Help, so I feel like-
Baisley, Liston,
Making sure.
Pelton R, Carson, Bright. With a vote of 22 ayes, 8 noes, 0 absent, 4 excused, 1 vacant, committee of the whole report is adopted. House Bill 1151, 1155, 1156, 1163, 1165, 1166, as amended, passed, as amended, and then House Bill 1167, passed on second reading, order revised, and placed on the counter for third reading and final passage. Third reading of the bills, consent calendar. Mr. Schauffler, please read the title of all the bills on the consent calendar.
Senate Bill 7 by Senator Mullica and Representative Leader and Foray concerning the use of medical marijuana by terminally ill patients in health facilities. Senate Bill 54 by Senator Catlin and Snyder and Representatives Ricks and Richardson concerning an exception to the statutory limit on the amount that a landlord may require a tenant to provide as a security deposit in cases where the landlord and tenant haven't executed a post-closing occupancy agreement.
Majority Leader Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of all the bills on third reading of bills consent calendar, which is Senate Bill 7 and Senate Bill 54.
Any discussion on any of the bills? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of all the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar. Are there any no votes? Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to please be counted as a no vote on Senate Bill 26-007.
Senator Baisley will be counted as a no vote on Senate Bill 007. Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to be counted as a no vote on Senate Bill 26007, the Devil's Lettuce Bill, and this will be no.
Wow. Senator Pelton B. We recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 007 and will be fined $1 for referring to a bill as, I don't even know what he said, devil's lettuce. All right, Senator, we need money, man. Thank you, we appreciate it. Senator Zamora Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request to be a no vote on Senate Bill 26007. Thank you.
That's how it's done. Senator Zamora Wilson will be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 007. Senator Pelton R.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I do like the guardrails that are on this bill. I'd request to be a no vote on Senate Bill James Bond.
There we go. Senator Pelton R. will be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill James Bond 007. Senator Rich.
That was just a bad phrase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask to be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 26007.
Senator Rich will be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 007. Senator Mullica will be fined $1 just because it's Thursday.
He hasn't shaved.
He hasn't shaved. All right, seeing no further discussion, with a vote of 25 ayes, 5 noes, 0 absent, and 4 excused, Senate Bill 007 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Marchman, Cutter, Henriksen. Please add the president. With a vote of 30 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 4 excused, and 1 vacant, Senate Bill 54 is passed. Co-sponsors. There we go. Senator Kipp. Third reading of the bills. Final passage. Mr. Schauffler, please read the title of House Bill 1027.
House Bill 1027 by Representative Story and Stuart K. and Senator Colker, concerning boards of cooperative services and in connection therewith permitting a retiree to work as an executive director of a board of cooperative services without losing retirement benefits and clarifying board of cooperative services eligibility for post-secondary and workforce readiness funding.
All in one breath. Senator Colker.
I move House Bill 261027 and ask for an aye vote.
The motion is the passage of House Bill 1027. Are there any no votes? What? Senators Zamora Wilson, Baisley, Carson. With a vote of 27 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, 4 excused, House Bill 1027 is passed. Co-sponsors, Senators Marchman, Kipp, Cutter, Wallace. Very good, very good. Exum. Were you talking to Senator Priola when did he call you and say to co-sponsor? He's not even here to defend himself. Very good. Second reading of bills, Majority Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the general order second reading of bills lay over until Friday, February 20th, 2026.
The motion is lay over general order second reading of bills for Friday, February 20th, 2026. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. What? The ayes have it. General order second reading of bills will lay over until Friday, February 20th, 2026. Introduction of resolutions. Mr. Schaffler, please read the title of SJR 013.
Senate Joint Resolution 013 by Senator Simpson and Representative Stuart K. concerning the recognition of Youth Mental Health Action Day.
Cool. Yep. Majority Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 013 lay over until Thursday, February 26th, 2026.
The motion is lay over SJR 013 to Thursday, February 26th, 2026. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The no doesn't have it. SJR 013 will lay over until Thursday, February 26, 2026. Introduction of bills.
Senate Bill 116 by Senator Weissman and Representative Sakai concerning the taxation of property and in connection therewith authorizing municipalities to levy a lodging tax, clarifying the valuation for assessment of lodging property, extending the portable qualified senior primary residence benefit, and modifying the taxation of business personal property.
Finance.
Senate Bill 117 by Senator Bridges and Amabile and Representative Mabry and Soper concerning permissible methods for the sale of lottery tickets.
Finance.
House Bill 1013 by Representative Sirota and Mabry and Senators Cutter and Weissman concerning the use of a ratio utility billing system by a landlord to allocate utility charges to tenants.
Business, labor, and technology.
House Bill 1064 by Representatives Jackson and Ryden and Senator Amabile concerning modifications to the youthful offender system.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1067 by Representatives McCormick and Winter T and Senator Pelton B and Roberts concerning using money in the Diseased Livestock Indemnity Fund to address threats to livestock health.
Agriculture and natural resources. Message from the governor.
Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the powers conferred upon me by the Constitution and the laws of the state of Colorado, I have the honor to designate, appoint, reappoint, and submit to your consideration the following member of the Colorado Water Conservation Board, effective February 13, 2026, for terms expiring February 12, 2029. Alan Ward of Pueblo, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the Arkansas Drainage Basin appointed. Laura Lee Cloud of Ignacio, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the San Miguel Dolores San Juan Drainage Basin reappointed. Nathan Coombs of La Jara, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the Rio Grande Drainage Basin reappointed.
Agriculture and natural resources.
Pursuant to the powers conferred upon me in the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado, I have the honor to designate, appoint, submit to your consideration the following member of the Parks and Wildlife Commission for a term expiring July 1st, 2027, Christopher Shitchko of Boulder, Colorado, to serve as a representative of sports persons occasioned by the resignation of Murphy Robinson of Littleton, Colorado, appointed.
Agriculture and natural resources.
Member of the Board of Commissioners of Veterans Community Living Centers for a term expiring July 1st, 2029, Bruce Odenthal of Loveland, Colorado, to serve as a member with expertise in nursing home operations and experience in multi-facility management of nursing homes and a Republican appointed.
State Veteran Military Affairs.
Dear President Coleman, on behalf of the Front Range Passenger Rail District and pursuant to 3222-104 CRS 1, respectfully, I submit the following appointments for Senate confirmation. Denver Regional Council of Governments, Chris Nevitt, reappointed January 7, 26, term expires December 31st, 2029. Deborah Mulvey, reappointed January 7, 26, term expires December 31st, 2029. North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization, Tricia Kenenico, reappointed on December 29, 2025, term expires December 31st, 2029. Pueblo Area Council of Governments, Miles Lucero, appointed 12/11/25, term expires December 31st, 2029. Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, Corey Applegate, appointed 1/16/26, term expires December 31st, 2029. Copies of biographical information are attached. Thank you for your ongoing support of Front Range Passenger Rail. Sincerely, Sal Pace, General Manager, Front Range Passenger Rail District.
Transportation and Energy. Mr. Schaffler, please add Senators Catlin and Danielson to the roll. Oh, and Gonzalez to the roll. Announcements, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you. Colleagues, you should have had a flyer on your desk tomorrow morning. I don't know if they come and visit you, but there will be a meet and greet breakfast tomorrow in the West Foyer for NCSL. If any of you haven't participated, have questions, they are a nonpartisan group that are concentrated just on state legislators. They do nonpartisan research, policy resources, training, and professional. If you'd like to stop by between 8 and 9:15 a.m. tomorrow to say hi to your liaison, just come by and get a burrito or something.
Very good. Senator Amabile.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's not Groundhog Day, but yet again, the Joint Budget Committee will be meeting across the street at 1:30. And
Every
it's
day
going
is
to be
Groundhog
really
Day.
exciting again.
Every day is Groundhog Day for JBC. Senator Pelton B.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, you guys got all something on your desk today, and the Bedford Beverage Association would like me to tell you about how wonderful it was to meet with them this morning. And so they wanted me to make sure that it was to tell you that those wonderful things on your desks were from non-alcoholic beverage industry, and that say thank you for everything that you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee is meeting this afternoon at 1:30. We will hear confirmations for the GOCO Board, the Colorado Agriculture Development Authority, the Colorado Wildlife Habitat Stamp Committee, followed by Senate Bill 89, then Senate Bill 62.
Very good. Senator Exum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Local Government and Housing will not be meeting this afternoon. We moved everything to next week. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, colleagues. We got a bill to read across the desk, so we'll be recessing. On that, Mr. President, I move the Senate recess until 12:50 today.
For the motion, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senate will recess until 12:50 p.m. today.